hello. Good to see you again. I feel as I've lived in this chair, and I feel as I've seen some of you 3 or 4 times. Good to see you all again. I can see Melanie Weston investigates TARDIS Spider. I can see Connor, Barry, Anthony Parkinson. Good to see you all. C has said Earthshock was their first big favorite story, so please share your stuff now, because we'll be starting on that soon. So just to remind you what we're doing tonight, it's the middle of the week, isn't it? So we really do need to kind of be fair here. So we're in the middle of the week. We've had the Radio Times article and the interview with RTD, and boy, have me and Rachel and everybody streaming gone wild on that, because it was interesting, wasn't it? But because it's middle of the week and we've had all that and we've discussed the ratings like every other blooming stream 10 times over, we now embark on anticipation for the final 2-parter, and we'll take a nostalgic dive into Earthshock. And funny enough, come on then, what setting, what alien world that the Doctor landed on was the creepiest to you? And as I said in my stream this morning, there were some interesting answers from the panel, because creepy doesn't necessarily have to mean, scary creepy. It could be creepy, disturbing, etc. So, I hope you're settled, got yourself a drink, got your popcorn. The puppets are all lined up. My only little Cyberman there, he's set up. Nobby the Nobot, he's there. So everybody's ready. So, for obvious reasons, let's get the panel on and let's actually start nattering away about this. So let's see who I can grab first. Right now, he's normally gabbing away. Hello, Sean.
Evening all.
I thought I'd warm you up early and get you on. So you know me. I like to show some great vintage sets. Do you know what story that is?
No. Sorry, everybody.
No, don't worry. I'm not trying to do a quiz at the beginning, but look at that. I love seeing William Hartnell stuff in colour. I don't know why. I love to see the battered TARDIS. Just love to see all that. So, Shahan, I had a good week?
Yeah. I'm knackered, to be fair, but it's hump day. We've got past Wednesday. We're on the downhill slope now. We're hurtling towards Friday and the weekend. So,
yeah,
we've hurt you.
Which is why I thought this is a good night, midweek, we can get nostalgic. We can still look ahead and think the Doctor Who's got a chance, before it's not. So,
yeah.
Anyway, let me go and fish around for another panelist. Where is he? Let's have a look. Oh, now, is this a panelist or is this somebody? Who's this? Who's this? I thought I'd invited Jeremy.
Welcome.
It's the cyber leader.
Yeah. How are you?
I tell you what, you remind me of in Attack of the Cybermen, when they had to wear the helmets and one held it low down. You remind me of that. The one who hunched and went, and it was really funny. Yes, cyber leader Jeremy. That's a brilliant helmet. Look at that.
We've kidnapped Jeremy, so we ransom him for 50p. But don't bring any gold.
I've got no money. Has Jeremy been deleted or converted? I can't remember what we say nowadays. I can't remember what the parlance is. But well. No more Jeremy.
Brendan, I've got a good intro for Rachel, by the way, when she comes on. So I've got a good line to introduce her.
You've got a good line to introduce her. Well, I was just, as we were excavating Jeremy's head, I was also excavating that Dalek there. So let's obviously. Oh, look at that creepy set. So let me go and get then Rachel. Hiya, Rachel.
Hi. So, royalty is here.
Yeah, I'm amazed you fitted me in. I mean, as we all know, Rachel, she sleeps by day. She's streaming like hell. I don't know how many you streaming, probably with cold as well. Streaming.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done it with a cold. I've been still releasing videos, even though I'm signed off work. So, there you go.
Oh, let's hope the DSS isn't watching. Oh, dear. Do you want to know what my line was for you, Rachel? This was my introduction for you. Was she's less rogue, more vogue. It's Rachel from Shout About It, Don't Shout About It.
Yeah, she'll be doing it. Queen of the Walk, yes, Rachel, chat about it, don't shout about it, and give her a subscription. She's trying to get to 1,000. I won't be able to beat her. She'll get there first. You little devil.
It's not a competition between us.
No, it's not. We help each other out. So,
Yeah.
and hello, Gary from the good old US of A.
Hello, everybody.
I always try and get different pictures for you.
Can I guess the first photo? You said which story is that?
Go on then. Let's go through them again.
That's Time Meddler.
Time Meddler, and of course that used to be my profile name, the Time Meddler.
Where the doctor wonders if is that a space helmet for a cow.
And I went, and then of course I think that's the Dalek.
Chase.
Oh no, is that the Chase? I get
Chase.
mixed up sometimes.
Yeah.
Is that the Chase?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where the
And
Dalek
then-
rises from the sand.
And that's Dalek's master plan.
Yeah. And then look at that. Absolutely love it. I even like the Dalek in the background that I think is just a drawing because they always tried to make them look as though they're more numbered.
It's so
Yeah.
weird looking at them in colour.
Oh, it's beautiful. I don't know. You know me. I'll just love to see these old ones. And then look at that. I mean, the Web Planet is notorious, isn't it? But look at those costumes.
I love the Web Planet.
Do you really?
I do. I really do.
The rest of it goes downhill.
Yeah, it's too slow. That's the only trouble. Just too slow. Right then, you know me. I like to just kind of go a bit out there. So, who would like to buy this?
Oh.
Look at that. Look at that Dalek head, that pinball machine. It was on Facebook this week. Some of the people in the thread may have seen it. It's in America. I think he's in Ohio, and he was selling it for a few thousand.
Oh, wow.
Look at those details.
Retro.
Oh, I'd buy that in a minute.
Except for the... What?
Say no to drugs.
Yeah, Grange Hill.
Zamor.
Oh, that's
He's
really cool.
He's selling it now.
I love the Fifth Doctor's hairdo in that one. If you go back to the one again,
flowing locks.
Yep.
Yeah, that was before he had it cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he filmed his second story before he had it cut.
It's like Peter Frampton.
They always made Colin Baker look as though it was a tight perm. Anton Baker in that one. They've both got very tight perms.
Very.
That would have been a bit stressful. So
I had a machine like that.
There you go. I've got us all nice and relaxed and thinking, hey, could you fit a pinball machine like that somewhere in your house or your shed? Well, are you going to put this in your Christmas stocking? Hey, Rogue, look at that. That I can't deal with that illustration even. And I remember, I will remind the thread, I'm gay myself, but honestly, I don't like the drawing. It looks so cartoon. It looks like some sort of boyish caper. Oh my God.
Why are the Doctor and Rogue? Why are they living in a 1950s, like the perfect American house? It looks like that Indiana Jones scene in the nuclear town. What's all that about? And why are they massive? Why is Ruby the size of a house? Like headways? What's going on there?
Well, they won't be able to go in the bushes because those bushes are small. So, honestly. So,
is that a paperback version?
I mean, well, it's one of 4 that's coming out.
Yeah,
it is, and we were texting, weren't we, Gary? Because the speculation that in fact, you were doing your own version of the purple prose that might be written in it.
I did. You want me to go ahead and read that?
Go on then, because it's very sexy.
So I thought. When I first saw that, I was kind of horrified, and I thought, I can only imagine the purple prose that they're going to use to describe the kissing scene. So I thought about it for about 10 seconds, and here's what I came up with. The Doctor knew he might not ever see Rogue again, might never look into those smoldering eyes again. He reached out and pulled him in. His Gallifreyan lips had never known such pleasure before, and the feeling was so intense, he wondered if it might trigger another regeneration right there.
It's...
So that'll be the kind of thing that we'll be getting as a target book.
Yes, well, I've seen some of the purple prose in Church on Ruby Road, and you won't be far off, because they give them all the backstory and all. Yes, as Mary O'Gould's Soul Gilgil Smith, Mills and Boom. Remember Mills and Boom? My mum used to read them in the bath.
My mum used to.
Yeah, Loads of them. They had I used them in an English lesson once, as in the covers were very dramatic with stereotypes. Stereotypes. There you go. So, oh yes, one little other bit of admin before we go flying into our Earthshock. So remember, C, you said it was your first favourite one. So tell us what you liked about Earthshock. Tell us if there was anything problematic in it. We've got to be fair. But I want to show the panel this, because in Rogue, of course, we had that scanned chronology that was all mixed up of all the doctors, and we were all talking about Richard E. Grant. Well, why didn't they add these? You might as well have gone the whole hog and had Joanna Lumley, Rowan Atkinson, Hugh Grant. I mean, come on. Why didn't they do that? They might as well just do the complete set.
You might as well. They're all pretty good choices, I think, actually.
I am wondering how far we go before the dimensions in time does become canon. You know, that they seem to be wanting to force all this nonsense into us, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, thank God it didn't happen, I say. Right. Well, as you know, our first item is normally just to kind of get you all nice and nostalgic. Let's not think about ratings for a second. Let's not think about whether Sutek's coming back. We can talk about that later. What we want to talk about is when we didn't know anybody was coming back. We didn't know anybody was going to die. We didn't know. Remember that world when you didn't know what was going to happen? It was actually better. Right. Time for Time Flash and Earthshock. Okay, we're under starters orders, and so let's start with a famous clip from Earthshock. There you go. Wokey and Nobby the Nobot thought they'd reenact it for you. Now, what's that moment from Earthshock?
Is that when the Cyberman gets caught in the door? They freeze him in the door.
I was trying. Sorry, Rachel. I know you've got to get on my wavelength.
That's the finale, the final scene, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, Adric. Yeah.
Rachel, you should have noticed the Rockies. His
yeah,
acting.
I just saw the rope after that.
So there you go. He's in the zone. We made a little star for him, but you can't quite see it. Yeah, it was the final moments of Adric. I know. B props. You've got it. You've got it. It was a very sad moment. Did everybody notice, by the way, since I've just happened to have mentioned Adric, Peter Davison's doctor didn't cry.
Yes.
He didn't cry. Isn't that a fascinating thing? Because it's the same doctor, you know.
It was a blow. He was devastated.
Yeah.
But he doesn't cry.
Tegan
and Nissa do.
So I'll just do a quick intro, and then the panel can tell us what this means to them and the thread. Come on, we know we're going to mention the Adric scene. We know we're going to mention the first moment you saw the Cybermen and we all had a heart attack. But there's more to this, isn't there? So come on then. Does Earthshock make you feel good? Does Earthshock take you to a happy place? Was it a night when you were doing your homework? You know, take us back, because it's March 1982. I think it was being shown midweek now, wasn't it, Rachel? I think, and Jeremy. I think it was
except I wasn't born in 1982, but I think so.
Yeah, I think I used to have to do my homework and then you sit down to do that. Jeremy, does that ring a bell?
Well, I was working at the time. So sometimes I had to, I normally recorded it on these Philips tapes, which were great big square block tapes, very expensive. So I could catch up and, when I came back from work to watch them.
Yes, I mean, the plot is quite straightforward, really. A conference to unite military powers against the Cybermen is taking place, and the Cybermen plot to destroy the Earth by crashing a space freighter into it. Very, very sloppy. The Doctor must stop them, whatever the cost, and he stumbled on it. And just so we'll come back to the cast and the directors if necessary. But just to kind of say, there were some interesting aspects to Earthshock. Sixth story of season 19, a very, very successful start for Peter Davison. Final appearance of Adric, although we saw him again slightly in Time Flight as a kind of hologrammy thing. It was notable for its very high ratings. I'll show you them in a moment. But J&T, our great showrunner then producer, deliberately didn't announce the return of the Cybermen, deliberately didn't announce the death of Adric, and took a lot of risks because he could have hyped the show up, but he didn't. He actually went against type.
But Brendan, I've researched 1982, and the weather that week was atrocious.
Was it?
Everyone was inside watching the TV. We've got to remember these things. History, guys, it's important.
That's maybe why I got my homework done faster. That's it. You see, it's all true, right? Okay. So it was the only serial in John Nathan Turner's time as the producer whose episodes were all in the top 50 of programs watched on British TV. This is the first Cybermen story without the involvement of Kit Pedler and Jerry Davis. And this shows a very rare moment when the Doctor uses a weapon, but also kills with it. And so it is an interesting story for lots of reasons. Classic Eric Sayward, you could argue. But look at those ratings, just up there, 9.9, 8.8, 9.8, 9.6. So it was very consistent. I found it very just surprising. But of course, Coronation Street was on other nights and everything. But 9.9 for episode 1, when nobody had any hype. Once we knew the Cybermen were back, it dropped by 1 million. But it might have been up against something. It could have been that. So let's start us off. Rachel, you seemed very happy when I picked this one. What's the reason for that?
Because this was one of the first ones that I ever watched as a child. So it would have been about sort of 1992, 1993. I would have been about 7 or 8. And I have 2 very, very, very vague recollections of it. I watched it at a friend's house on VHS, and I remember the cliffhanger of the Cybermen dropping, just like boom, hadn't expected that at all. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
And and literally it was Adric dying at the end that I was like, whoa, did not see that coming at all. And then years later, when I tuned into my first load of Tom Baker stories, I saw obviously Adric was introduced. I was like, hang on a minute, didn't he die? And then I remembered, and then I went and got it on DVD and watched it all again and reminded myself, look at those effects, look. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I was still in that period, Rachel, when you're just doing audio recording.
Yeah.
But actually, and I will talk about Malcolm Clarke's music later, because it's very distinctive, isn't it? Earthshock.
Mm-hmm.
It is so. I can hit all the tones and everything. You just know what's going on.
Yeah.
So Rachel, what's I mean, now that you're an actress and everything, but
Yeah.
what's one of your big moments in this where you go, oh, that's dramatic, that really works, that's.
Oh my gosh, I get my notes out because there's like so many. I made a list of notes. I send my notes to Brendan every week just in case there's something specific that he wants to pull up on.
Pull out.
Yeah. I'm a SWAT.
Top of the class.
Top of the class. I've got some things that don't work in it, but
well, don't worry. Go for either or.
Ooh.
Leave something for the rest of us, though, Rachel.
I will. All right. Okay, so like in episode 1, Snyder getting killed by those androids. That's pretty gruesome stuff, isn't it? Like when you see
slime.
Yeah, the slime and like the blood and all of that. I thought that was intense. And that cliffhanger.
Yeah.
It had the music and everything. I mean, Gary, where were you at this point? When did you actually first see Earthshock?
Oh, it was probably years later, because the US didn't get. I mean, it was probably on, some VHS tape that I got like in a brown paper bag somewhere, because it wasn't. It actually didn't make its way to actual PBS for years. But I want to show you that I actually have some show and tell today for this episode.
Okay.
Brendan.
Yeah.
So I got my Davison figure.
Oh yes.
I've got my Cyber Leader.
Yes, I've got
figure.
Yeah.
And hang on a second. I've got my Adric figure. I got my Adric Earthshock limited edition figure here. So there you go.
That was a cheap figure, was it?
But yeah, that was, you can, yeah. No, this is, no, I love this story.
He's now in an egg
I
timer.
think it's, I mean, for me, it's Davison's second best story, of his entire run. And, I mean, at least for me, I don't know if this is true of anybody else. To me, I mean, it's a very strong story, but for me, it can never again be as good as the first time I watched it.
Yeah, I know
Because
what you mean.
I think a lot of the power of this story, I think the best way to see this story is as the audience did in 1982. Chronologically, you've seen all of season 18 and you've seen season 19, and then you go into this one knowing absolutely nothing about it. That actually is the best way to experience this story.
And the title is useless, isn't it? Earthshock. Absolutely, just, I mean, it doesn't tell you anything. And this was the start of these strange titles like Castrovalva, Logopolis, that didn't give much away at all. I mean, they just give you a one-word thing. And Earthshock, Earth Attack, you were trying to work out what it was. Jeremy, memories of this story, and is it a go-to one for you?
Yes, it is. I quite like it. And it was nice to see the Cyberman back again. And obviously slightly redesigned as well. But yeah, it was very good. I enjoyed it.
It went down well, the change, didn't it? The cyber design.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been a huge risk as well, then.
Well, the mouth, seeing the mouth.
That was ingenious.
Yeah, that
kind
was
of
a shock.
that plexiglass thing on the chin was ingenious design.
It's grim, isn't it? It's really, really grim when you think about it.
That's one of the best moments.
That to me, sci-fi wise, I say sci-fi wise, it was a bit of action. It was a bit of BBC action because we couldn't afford much. And I thought, oh, how did they do that? That was really good. I liked that. Yes, you need a bit of cyber action. And Jeremy, I suppose we saw Revenge of the Cybermen in 75. And I have no problems with Revenge of the Cybermen. I know we had a plasticine planet we kept flying over, but but apart from that, I loved Revenge of the Cybermen, and I liked the Cybermen in it. And me and Jamie have an issue in this house. We say the only difference from this story onwards, where Earthshock changed everything, is the Cybermen having guns and not having the gun in their headpiece or in that chest piece. And I miss that. I don't know why they did it, because then suddenly you can grab a gun off a Cyberman and turn it on him. And I've never liked that since. I've always liked it. The weapon was always part of them.
That's right.
So I like the mouth bit. And I think actors said they like to act to the Cybermen because once you can see somebody's mouth, it helps. But that was,
and I love the fact about the Cybermen, the fact that I know, it goes against their history up to that point, but clearly these Cybermen are no longer emotionless. But I think that works for this story. I mean, the cyber leader, because I think that it would have been harder for Davison to play off against somebody who's just like a flat, monotone, robotic character. The fact that he can say so like, "This is excellent news, Doctor," and all that stuff. And then Davison can basically kind of have a philosophical argument with him, which is great.
And we all know the bit, don't we, Sean? Or did you see it when eating a well-prepared meal is what every human wants? A well-prepared meal, not dross, not a microwave meal. Peter Davison's doctor said a well-prepared meal.
He did. I hate to be the voice of. I wasn't enamored by it. I think, and I haven't seen a lot, but it's the weakest I've seen so far, which isn't saying much. And no doubt when I watch a lot more, it'll probably go up my estimations. I felt I didn't really know, like Jeremy said, I didn't really. Like everyone said, I didn't know who anybody was. I haven't watched much of this era, so I was trying to figure out who the Doctor is. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's 4 episodes, so it's not 6. So it's quite sprightly in that respect. So that was quite good. But on the other hand, I think it suffered from a few too many people. I think obviously with the Doctor having like three companions, they kind of didn't seem to know what to do with a couple of them at a certain point. And maybe that's just my modern Doctor Who eyes going.
No,
I've seen, sorry, go on.
No, you're right. Sorry, I cut you off, but you're right. They did actually say that one of the problems that they had creatively wise is that the fact that they had three companions, and it shows because one companion always stayed in the TARDIS or was always in a situation that made them captured or something like that because they couldn't think beyond what to do. But we do know that that works because we had it in the beginning. So
yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not really a really bad thing about it. It was just
No.
I thought it's strange because watching some of them are older Who, like Sylvester McCoy's and Patrick Troughton, and William Hartnell's, to jump from that to this, it's like, oh, I think this has gone in it's more modern, but I don't think that does it any. I don't know. I struggle. I wasn't as amazed as I thought I would be.
It's an interesting point though that kind of Sean makes, which is that some stories can play cold, no matter if it's the first time you've seen that Doctor or whatever. Some stories like this, I think, which is arguably kind of like the narrative culmination of the previous year and a half of the show, and not having seen those, I think that the power of this story relies on the fact that this is the first time that this particular Doctor, who is against one of his most powerful, I'm not counting the Alien Master, is against one of his most powerful old foes, and this Doctor, which is sometimes barely kind of hanging on in terms of he just narrowly wins a lot of the time. And you really do feel like that he's kind of out of his depth. And whatever you think of Adric, the fact that, young viewers have seen this character like every week for 2 seasons. So Adric's death kind of is where the story gets a lot of its power. So I'm not really sure. I guess Sean kind of tells us when you come into this cold without that kind of context to bring to it can affect what you think of it.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting because before we started this stream, I was saying one of the issues I had with this whole period, although it was one of my favorite periods, was the domestic arrangements, the bedroom arrangements. I didn't want us to spend any minutes in these bedrooms having a bit of a domestic chit chat. I wanted them to get on with the story. And so it's interesting that Sean is saying that, it's almost as if you need to have known a bit more about some of these characters.
It was awful to come into cold. Like that first scene, you're like, right, who's Adric? Oh, this is Adric, because, obviously you can't watch Doctor Who and not at least have heard Adric.
So this was your first episode with Adric?
Yeah, that doesn't help either.
No,
so that's gonna affect it.
Yeah, I was like, who's this whinge bag? And then you've got, but I tell you what I did like. So I will spin a positive on the companions, which I would never do for like Whittaker's 3, for example, in that they all have their own distinct personalities. You can see that they're used to being with the Doctor. They're trying to convince the 2 ladies are trying to convince the Doctor like to make up, and Davison's 5th Doctor comes across more like a slightly on edge. 11th Doctor, he feels like a slightly not unhinged, well, maybe on edge, kind of like this more youthful Doctor, because I'm right in thinking he was the youngest, I think, that I ever had. It comes across, and he's very much struggling to emote, and that was quite good.
I mean, it's interesting on new viewing. I mean, I know we all know the bits we like and maybe the bits we didn't, but I had the photograph up then for a little while with Janet Fielding and Peter Davison. When he grabbed her, she'd pressed a button on the TARDIS, and it had gone out of control because the Cybermen were there. So she was
right.
But he got hold of her and said, "You do that again, and we're all dead." And we're all moaning about Colin Baker with Nicola Bryant a little bit later on, but the Doctor got hold of Janet. I think he really liked that. He got hold of Janet Fielding. Tegan, stop it.
Well, I don't know that that's comparable in terms of, the 6th Doctor strangling Perry because he's going crazy, and knowing Tegan as he does, that she's like this over emotional, woman who's capable of doing something like that. He has to basically kind of tell her, and he wasn't like shaking her or being any kind of he's like, it's true, because she could have toggled a control on the console, which could have thrown him into his son or something. You never know.
Yeah. Well, while you all take a pregnant pause, I've been promising the thread that I'll just see what their memories are of this story while you all look at your notes and what you want to say next about Earthshock. So let's have a look. It's great to see you all here. Come on, this must be a nice, easy one for you to talk about. Divine and Dragon, he was here this morning. Good to see you again. Yeah, the rewatch with fresh eyes. I do see different things every time. I know which scenes don't work. I have to say, I can easily talk about them now. And at the time, I didn't notice as much. Definitely the domestic scenes. Sick to death of that. Sadako24, though, himself says, I'm not the biggest fan of this era, but this story is definitely a keeper for me. So I find it interesting what Sean was saying and everybody, because this was the standout. I think when Doctor Who Monthly did the survey, this won by a mile. Yeah. Beat everything in sight.
Oh God, what are the other ones like?
Yeah, well, no, it was a good season. Barry, hiya. This was my 4th Cyberman story. I was overjoyed to see them back. Your 4th one. So I'd only seen. Oh, there you go, Jeremy. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'd only seen.
Excellent.
And it had been a 7-year wait. It was ridiculous.
Oh, do you know what I noticed as well? I loved the fact that. Sorry to cut you off. I loved the fact that, because obviously I've seen a few Doctor Who Cybermen episodes, and I'm used to them having a more robotic voice. So the fact they all talk like, "Oh, we need to do this," I was like, I prefer that. I preferred that really malevolent.
Oh yeah.
Voice.
The new Who has never done Cybermen well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So Peter, the flight suit sprayed silver. Yeah, it was good old BBC budget. Lovely design. Loved their guns. I don't. You know why. This is making me feel young again. Well, we were young at the time, Peter. I think that's why.
I was just going to say that
go on.
all credit to David Banks for wearing this.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
It's very claustrophobic and it's very hot.
Yeah.
You can imagine you're actually screwed into these on the back plate.
Yeah.
I've got Velcro on mine, but
is that one that was used?
No. This is Seven's Cyberman.
Right.
Wow.
Years ago.
Very nice. Very nice. As kids, we liked the black bit, so you knew he was the leader. All that stuff that had been in for a little while with Revenge of the Cybermen too. Barry was saying, I was disappointed with Revenge of the Cybermen as I remembered the Whelan Invasion Cybermen with their creepy voices. Yeah. And of course, I didn't know that, Barry. So my introduction was Revenge. So the music, the caves, Wookiee Hole. Now, when we started tonight, said this was their favourite, I think you said. The question is the time it was filmed. Was it the same year or the previous one? I know film for TV in those days was different. I've never even connected what's that, SW to it. We're continuing from I was waiting to get to your wonderful memories of it. Beautiful designs, those helmets, as you've just seen there. Divine and Dragon. I think it's interesting to consider the production team with each iteration of a recurring nemesis, how each has a slightly different take. Yeah. But as you heard from Gary, do you think it went too far and in New Who we've gone backwards? Peter Harrington loves that famous line, love, hate, pride, fear. The thing is, I couldn't even speak for myself. I was 12 or 13, and to see clips from the 10th planet, wheel in space. And like I said to Rachel, it was an audio recording. And as soon as that episode finished, which was episode 2, I'm playing that back, I'm playing it back to hear William Hartnell's voice, because we'd seen him in the 5 Faces of Doctor Who, but that was it. It was like a time of discovery. Divan Dragon talking about the budget here. So I'm just going to flick through, see what else. Paul Mabley. Could the Doctor have bent the laws of time to go and save Adric? Or was he also sick of him hanging around under the console room?
No.
That
would have been later called a fixed point in time at that point.
Yeah.
Yes. And the Blinovich limitation effect.
They addressed it in Big Finish audio dramas.
Did they?
Yeah, they do.
Do you think, by the way, on the Adric front, we've had Tales of the TARDIS, where Tegan and the Fifth Doctor mention it. In Power of the Doctor, they went Adric.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, have there been... Because there's this idea that suddenly, because Tegan and Nyssa seem to get on with it quite a way into time flight, and Adric's forgotten. And now suddenly we've got... Because we're in this very emotional world of 2024, Adric's getting mentioned all the time. And I'm thinking... We're kind of revising this. Now we have to all emote.
See with that, or they're planning to bring him back.
It's because they can't write things off as well. They can't write their own, so they've got to like desperately cling to the like glories of the past because they're not clever enough to write anything decent. That's the problem.
But I will say though that moment. Now I'm no fan of the Jodie era whatsoever, and especially her final episode. But I will say that moment with Peter Davison and Janet Fielding, probably for me was the best moment in that, because you can see that's the thing that's kind of hanging over their time together, was the loss of Adric. And I mean, it couldn't be addressed so much back in the day in terms of like the emotional thing, because the show just didn't do that. It wasn't that type of show back then. They have to kind of acknowledge it, pick up, and then move on. I will say, if I had been JNT, the way I would have kind of structured the season, I would have flipped. Let's say we had to have the same stories, right? I would have put Time Flight or whatever that final story was going to be before Earthshock, and had the quieter kind of two-part, almost kind of coda to Earthshock and to the whole season at the end, because the story after Earthshock needed to be kind of quieter, more subdued. You could have done Black Orchid without Earthshock, without Adric, but it would have been tonally, that would have been kind of a quieter, nicer way to end the season, as they're reflecting on the loss of Adric, in this kind of quiet 1920s. That would have been the way I would have done it.
Yeah, because in Black Orchid, Adric essentially he's just there. They didn't write him.
Yeah, he's just there eating. That's all he does in that story.
Yeah, he must have been so full.
Right. But do you see what I mean? It's like that would have been a way, if you're gonna, but I don't think JNT looked at the season as a whole. I think it was just a succession of individual stories that didn't kind of build tonally or shape to anything.
In a way, Gary, I was making this argument this morning that actually I'd like a return to a bit more of that. You see, I was comparing to, don't ask me why I've put that one up. That's a mistake. When I was talking this morning on my TV ratings conundrum, I was talking about the fact that everybody refers to the Philip Hinchcliffe season. No narrative arcs, no little Easter eggs, no little Mrs. Flood and Susan Twist. Separate stories, as you were saying, Gary, separate stories. Now, in some ways, in classic Doctor Who, some of them jar with each other a little bit, like you were saying, really, with this season. But I am over these narrative arcs. It's clever ass done for.
No, I agree, but the thing about it is, an event like this really needed some kind of honest follow-up, because this was the first time that you'd had, a companion die since the Daleks' master plan, and this was the first time that you had a companion who was there for more than just the one story die, and it really almost kind of demanded and warranted some kind of, I don't mean like wallow in it for 2 episodes, but have it to be a little bit more than they did.
And it's a teenager, so it connects even more with the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very impactful.
How old is he meant to be? I asked this before we started.
He's meant to be. He and Nyssa are meant to be teenagers.
Yeah, about 16, I think, isn't it? He was older, but
Paul Mabley here. Yes, I read this again today. That moment in the TARDIS when Janet Fielding screams is because they could only do one take and the explosive touched her hair or something. All those little pockets. But when we were talking about the drama of the death of Adric, and Gary was saying if the order was a bit different to the season, But somebody in the thread was also saying about, nowadays, like in Wild Blue Yonder, when he picked up the Ron Donna Noble, nowadays they've made it such a clever wheeze. And don't you think they've taken all the tension out? The Doctor makes a mistake, Adric dies. Or he's got no control, so the Adric dies. With Donna Noble, the Doctor made a mistake, and he miraculously, within seconds, had the TARDIS right exactly where she was. You know what I mean? There's no tension in that. This is just so proper Superman-esque nonsense.
She had a great death, didn't she? She had a great original, like not a
Donna?
physical death, but like a mental death, and then they ruin it because they bring her back, and
it was a brilliant.
She should, the Doctor needs to let it go. And it's just like, oh, really? You've ruined it. They can't. The very few people have the skill to write. The writing on TV back then was just massively better. And this is I wasn't even around. I'm a '90s kid, but looking back to the early 2000s, and I'm going to say it again, Star Trek Enterprise. You look back 20 and a bit years to the sci-fi that was coming out then. Like maligned sci-fi, like Star Trek Enterprise, got cancelled after 4 series or seasons. It's American, and then you think. And you watch it back now and think, oh, this should have gone on. This deserved to go on for years. It's not perfect. The theme song's a bit weird. But...
I'm looking at this, Sadako. What do you know about Adric's final scene here that you can't ignore now?
No, it's there. I'll tell you what he's referring to. If you watch that scene now, basically Matthew Waterhouse knows that the console is going to blow up, right?
Yeah.
So watch the scene, because the early scenes, he's there leaning right into the console. And then for his final scene, though, you can tell that positionally, he's kind of pulled himself back, and he's almost kind of reaching out more to point to kind of tap on the keyboard almost very tentatively, because he's anticipating, right, Jeremy? He's anticipating that any second the effects people are going to set this off, and he doesn't want to be leaning too much into it. So when you watch it, you can see the almost kind of tentative hesitancy in those last couple of shots where he's kind of toggling on the keyboard. That's what he was talking about.
I get you.
To be honest, I don't blame him.
Well, no, of course, no, I'm not saying that.
No.
I'm just explaining what he was talking about.
I know what you mean. But yeah, it is very tentative.
I mean, Gore Vidal makes a good point. This is a great episode to show in a science class. First discuss the asteroid that broke from Jupiter, and then show this episode. There was a time when Doctor Who, even with the visitation, just the touch of Pudding Lane, just little touches. That's all I needed. You don't need to go heavy.
Yeah, because it encourages people to go and read. You'll know this as being ex-teacher. You don't need to give kids or young people the full story, or even young adults. You just need to give them a little bit of information, and if it piques their interest, they'll go and research themselves. That's what I was going to bring that up in my notes later on about how I love that bit about the dinosaurs, because he starts talking, and there's a really good line. This is what I mean about the writing, where the Doctor says something like, yes, they were 100 million years, and then they virtually vanished overnight. And it's like, they don't need to say that could be humans, but it's there. And it makes you think that, you could be, we've been here barely, nowhere near that.
Now we'd have a speech about global warming. We'd have a speech about this, that, and the other, and the story would be waiting to start.
They'd be calling us dinosaurs, wouldn't they?
One thing I noticed about the story in light of the story we covered last week, which was the Web of Fear, which was a Base Under Siege story. If you think about it, this is basically 2 Base Under Siege stories kind of welded together. You have the in the caves with the bomb, which is basically in effect a base under siege because they're under siege from this mysterious force that they can't find. And then the whole 3rd episode, which is the the assault on the bridge that they're all trapped in. That's effectively a base under siege situation. So they have a couple of those, and I mean it's a classic Doctor Who trope, but they do 2 of those in this story, and they do them well.
I do actually think, Gary, that the 2 episodes it's magic actually, because how many times there was a moment in the cyber console when they have a panic attack a couple of times, because one, he defuses the bomb, Then he stops the. I mean, they had a separate thing to do, didn't they? So there were two plans they had, a contingency plan, and it's gone wrong again. And you saw the cyber assistant, who was obviously going to get it in the neck from the cyber leader. And then, of course, to then just transport us halfway through the story onto the freighter, fantastic, cleverly done. It's nimble. It's nimble writing. It didn't exhaust the cave structure and the androids too much, and it didn't exhaust the freighter too much. And didn't you think the freighter was quite atmospheric in the storage
very
area?
alien, wasn't it? Very alien. It felt very alien in terms of the film. And it was now I wanted to learn. That's one thing. I might not have completely loved it, but I loved the characters. I was saying this before we came on, that I wanted to learn more about the companions. I wanted to learn more about the about the freighters and the captain, the woman captain, and her second in command. And I wanted to learn more about them, because all the characters, like all character actors, are all doing a really good job. And you want to learn more about them. It feels a very real world, whether, and that's what I love about Classic Who. Whereas now you meet people, and even it's meant to be 1815, and yet they act like 2024 people, and they talk like them, and you're like, I have no interest. This is just silly. So there you go.
Yeah, so I might as well do my round along the panel again on areas you want to talk about with Earthshock that makes it above normal. Would you call it classic? If you were on my review show regarding Rogue and Dot and Bubble, we try and be objective, and we also criticize. Are there things to criticize in this? Are there moments that make it a classic that you want to point out, Rachel?
No sonic screwdriver. Yes, well, you know how I feel about the sonic screwdriver. Yeah. I feel like it takes a lot away from the actual story and what you could actually do. Peter Davison's Doctor didn't have one, and that made the writing so much more creative. Like the bomb, the Doctor accidentally setting off the bomb. Yeah. Well, in today's show, he would have just gone, and that's it. Yeah. But they had to think about how they were going to deactivate.
He would have cried, that. Rachel. He would have cried.
Right, okay, yeah, sorry, but I'm
cried.
not a true fan, so I wouldn't know that.
Would you?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. Sorry, in joke. Anyway, so like blocking the signal with the TARDIS to deactivate the bomb, and then like the Cybermen are overriding it, and it's all this like pushback and battle between them, or something like that. They don't know what they're taking on at that point, do they? And we get an intelligent conversation and things like that. And there was another bit that they could have easily used the sonic screwdriver in with. I can't remember what bit it was now, but they didn't. It was just creative writing, and they were thinking about it. And I like that. That helps the stories more, keeps it more suspenseful as well. I will say something a little bit negative, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Here's the negative. No, it's not that much of a negative, I don't think. So Beryl Reid, she was the captain, wasn't she, in it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that was I'm going to say this. She is a fantastic actress, but I actually think that was a miscast. I don't think she. Yes, I do. With the scientific language, I don't feel like she was connecting with it enough.
No. No.
Yeah. But that's the only part, really, like in that sense with Beryl. The other stuff that she did was fine. It was just.
I thought that was very realistic. We've all had bosses who talk about things they should know about, but they
don't. That's what I was actually thinking that, when I was watching Beryl Reid, because we all, I remember when we got the casting and you thought, Beryl Reid in Doctor Who. For me, she was always on blankety blank. So basically I was thinking, well, what's she going to do? But I like the fact that basically, she's one of those bosses who can get cranky. She's obsessed with targets. She's very 2024, but actually hasn't a clue. I mean, it's I know what you mean. I know what you mean, Rachel. But
she could have played a different character in it,
Yeah, I love June Bland in it.
Yeah, she was great. Berger.
Yeah,
Berger, absolutely love Berger and Ringway. Is it Ringway?
Yeah.
Yeah, you always need. For some
reason, Rachel, the biggest problem that I have with because I've seen Earthshock so many times, it's like I can't envision anybody but her being the captain.
Yeah.
But still, the biggest problem that I have with her is that jacket, and I can't even articulate why. Something about that jacket just feels wrong.
I can't say much about the jacket.
Yeah, there you go, right there. It just I don't
It
know.
doesn't
It
match
just
her age, does
Rebels,
it?
is it?
yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
She looks more Davros. It's like Davros crossed with Murder She Wrote, isn't it?
But didn't she play I've forgotten the name. Is it Loot? She was in Loot, wasn't she? Joe Orton. And
I can't remember the name of it.
it's quite sexual, and she I think she was either a madame or something. So in a way, it's a bit more like that. In a way, she's a madame captain. But I quite bought into all the dynamics of who's in charge. June Blandberger doing all the work, Ringway being a right, busybody and pain in the neck. I love the targets. I can't give a damn about this. We're gonna get back. Loved all that because it just seemed to ring true.
What's the name of the actor? Who's the actor that played Scott? I thought he was great.
Scott. Oh yes,
James Warwick.
James Warwick.
Yeah, because he was
that was a terrific character.
Yes, he was like a brigadier type, wasn't he? He was like very strong. So if I came to you, Jeremy, stand out. Now, remember, do you have this down as a classic?
Yeah.
Are there any criticisms of this when you look at it now? Classic criticisms.
The only criticism I would say would be probably Beryl Reid as being miscast. Something that we haven't mentioned, of course, is Peter Davison's acting, which was very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the, it's on the par with Caves of Androzani.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think he puts a lot into it. Whether it's because Cybermen were in it, I don't know. But he's very, very, very good in it.
I always think Peter Davison was underrated even at the time, because to play a doctor who is less obviously strong and striking like Tom Baker's or John Pertwee's, that authority figure, Peter Davison played it very differently and more subtly. And at first I remember as a teenager thinking, he's not strong enough. But actually, when you really do watch the Peter Davison Fifth Doctor, there's so many canny nuances, I think.
I noticed that because obviously this is my first story with him that I can remember, aside from Time Crash, but we won't go there. And it's very much, he is quieter, he is more immature, younger in a way, in his mannerisms, but then you watch how he has that fire in his eyes, which the past two modern doctors don't have. But he has it in terms of like when he's talking to Adric in the beginning. And I wasn't a massive fan of that scene, but I did enjoy, he says, "Oh, like you promised Tegan." And he gives this, the Fifth Doctor gives this look and is like, "That's not fair." And it happens later on, they say, "A doctor, is this right?" And he says, "Well, would I be making this much of a fuss if it wasn't?" Like he's got that strength.
Yeah.
There's still that kind of, he's got a different personality, but he's still the Doctor. Don't be mistaken. This is still.
And the dialogue was always challenging him because he had three people at him all the time in the TARDIS, and yet he had to still be the Doctor. Just before we move on to discuss, Peter Harrington's helping me out. They're out there, Educating Mr. Sloan and Killing of Sister George are the big films of Beryl Reid's. And I think it's the Educating Mr. Sloan I'm thinking of. Gore Vidal has a nice suggestion, which I recommend too, actually. Now
yes,
you said it.
Absolutely.
I mean, Ian Marter, I did like his Target books, I have to say. I really do. I've come, Gary, classic, any little awkward moments in
well, no, absolutely a classic. I think that, I absolutely agree with Jeremy. I think this is Davison's second best story. I think overall, if I look at his era, the one thing I wish, Davison for me is kind of similar to Capaldi in that when I look at their era as a whole, I think they are far, far better actors than a lot of the material they were given.
Yeah.
And in Davison's specific case, I wish that he would have had more stronger villains, because the original remit for this character, it was kind of a combination of the old man and a young man's body, which they really didn't play too often. That came up sometimes, like where he put on the little half glasses in Frontios, which I wish they'd done that more. But it's more that, you know, I know John Nathan Turner, after what he saw as the kind of invulnerable, almost superhuman fourth Doctor, he wanted a Doctor that was very much more vulnerable, that would only just kind of be winning by the skin of his teeth, which I think is a very valid interpretation for a Doctor. You know, you can get a lot of drama about that. And I wish that they had played that more, where they were giving him more, stronger villains that really, where he had to kind of really work to win, because the stories where he had to do that were always great. And in this story, I would think the key Davison moments for me are just the two quick scenes. The first is where he's in the caves and he's leaning by the little, you know, square where the bomb is. Yeah. And Adric says something like, you know, what's that? And he puts his head in his hands. He goes like, a bomb, because he realizes now that he's kind of blown it. And that kind of like frustration and kind of like slapping of his own head there. I thought that his line read on that was great. And then the way that he looked, and this is a combination of the music and the camera angle and the zoom in, where I think Tegan goes, what are they? And it zooms in on him and he just goes, he whispers like Cybermen. And you can tell the look on his face is like, oh, crap. And that is just a great moment. And then his kind of interchange with, as you mentioned earlier, Brandon, the whole, you know, when was the last time you looked at a sunset, had a well-prepared meal? That was very well done. When Davison is giving strong material to play, he was fantastic. And I also want to give a shout out for the great cliffhangers throughout this story.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Rachel mentioned the first one with the whole Cyberman reveal. The second one, which is a more dramatic pause when Greenway says, you know, we execute traitors. That's more really of a pause. But that the third one where he goes like, my army awakes, Doctor, that was a great one. So this had great ends of episodes.
Well, Dino V thinks this is where the story that cemented Davison as a Doctor. I thought it was maybe the Visitation, but we all have opinions. Thank you for your objectivity. C1003. I didn't like Nyssa hesitating and airing caution when in the TARDIS. I have to say, we were talking earlier about too many companions and what do you do with them. Nyssa got a dumb, you know, the bum deal here, didn't she? I hated all those scenes in the TARDIS when she kept saying to that military figure, saying, I think we'll wait a bit longer. I think we'll wait a bit longer. It's like, oh, for God's sake. It was kind of counterintuitive. Didn't like that at all. Sean, you don't think this is a classic, do you? You obviously...
No, to be fair, I think I'm tired. I fell asleep watching it and had to catch up. So that's a bit. No, it didn't put me to sleep. I'm just very tired. So
you're the first person in history, Sean, who has ever said, I fell asleep on my first watch of Earthshock. You're the first person in history who's ever said that.
Wait for my Gremlins episode. That put me to sleep because the first 45 minutes are rubbish. But yeah, no, I think I need to rewatch it back, and I think when I watch it in context, it will probably be a lot higher. I think I'm being a little, not harsh, but I think I'm being a bit critical because I've watched it, as you said, Gary, earlier, and, you know, as we've seen, when you watch it completely cold, it's going, you know, whereas if I watch it back after seeing all Adric's episodes, it'll probably be like, oh no. So, but
it does make much more sense when you watch Adric's episodes back.
I've no doubt. I've kind of,
it's
like watching Doomsday, isn't it?
Can I ask you, Sean, when you watched it, did you watch the original version or did you watch the DVD version with the kind of improved effects? Because honestly, that's the version I prefer, especially for that final scene, the effect shot of the freighter where it's the new improved effects have it zooming into the planet. I prefer that so much more than just the kind of static ship kind of floating there. For me,
it's the static one. It's the static one because
see if you can find the one with the improved effects and watch that one.
Because it's the one that's on BBC iPlayer, unfortunately, just for the UK. Otherwise, I'd say go watch. But I watched it on iPlayer because it was free to do. But just in terms of the episode, I think it's a great episode for Peter Davison's Doctor. I was very impressed with this Doctor. He's very much a thinker. You know, why these caves? Why a bomb, not a missile? The fact that the Cybermen are talking about the Doctor and saying, Time Lords have forbidden to interfere. This Doctor does. I can't wait to find out more, because I'm used to the era, the new, the 2005 era, where he's the last of the Time Lords, and I want to learn more about Time Lord society, and I can't wait to find out about his trial and all sorts. So, and the fact that the Doctor has good relationships, whether they're utilized in this, great. No, but the fact that he has good thing, he apologizes to his companion Adric for being, and Adric's a kid, really. I mean, in terms of the Doctor as well, and he apologized to him because he's an adult. He's an adult, and he apologized to him. He doesn't go off in a huff. He doesn't start crying. He's very kind of. I very much enjoyed that. Although the gun was a little bit weird, but I've no doubt we'll get to that.
We're running out of time. Actually, we've got.
Can I just one last observation? I'm curious to whether any of you kind of have seen this in the past, or even agree with me. There are points in this story where really any of Davison's companions could have been killed. I'm wondering whether, because to me, the creation of the otherwise kind of useless Kyle character, who basically was just kind of like a Nissa copy. She's the one in the TARDIS with her as they're doing all the, mechanical, jiggery pokery and all of that stuff. But she is essentially a Nissa kind of part, you know what I mean? Like the young female scientist who's kind of helping out. Yet she's the one that's killed. And I've always thought, if Kyle hadn't been in this story, I could easily see Nissa being the one that's killed in that situation. Do you see what I mean? It's like there's points in this story where all three of them could have been just goners.
Which is why it's such a big cast.
Yeah, absolutely. Classic Eric Sayward, lots of death and all the rest of it. But I mean, I know, Rachel, you don't like those credits. I didn't either, because remember, I've said all the time, I was audio recording, so to record silence is hardly anything great. But to me, I found that a bit, oh, for God's sake.
Why?
Everybody has bigged it up. Everybody's gone about this amazing moment when Doctor Who did silent credits.
The funny thing is, Peter Davison didn't like it either, did he?
I don't know.
I heard tell about that, yeah. Interesting,
really?
isn't it? Yeah, apparently.
I didn't like the intro either. I thought it's probably the worst intro I've seen. I love the music, I love the theme, and I love seeing his face, but I think it's such a short introduction. I don't think it works.
I think they should have. I think they should have finished on the music. That would have been more impactful than just pure silence.
Yeah. So Darko says we should have had the TARDIS console hum.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got good ideas.
Good. That would have been good. That would have been good.
I think.
Well,
you're absorbing it with
I'm going to be very strict on timing. So here we go. We'll change segment now. So please, if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, what you're doing?
Go on, Jeremy.
Just quickly.
Shout, Jeremy, shout.
Go on, Jeremy, quick.
I'd like to give this story a gold star.
Very good.
Sheriff's in town.
Saves the best till last. There you go. Right. So here we go.
I always stand for this.
Right. You need to change that sound effect.
Will
we ever
know if Brendan was right to move on to the ratings?
Well, we'll soon know.
That's nicely done.
So I'll go fast here because obviously we've all seen multiple streams. Some of them have been called Rachel's. You've talked about the ratings. You've talked about the Radio Times article, and funnily enough, so have I. But there's so many streams doing it. Let's be honest. And so yes, we know it's all been talked about. There it is. I'm not going to waste your time tonight. But here's an interesting item that obviously Gary Lee on Facebook, XDWB. Obviously, my panelists sent it to me as well. We all help each other out. But this is all unofficial. But as fans, it's very interesting. Now, I think, Gary, you have been saying for ages, where's the figures? Where's the figures? They should have been released by now. Well, they haven't been released. But this is the unofficial kind of gossip that they are the audience figures. Now, look at, first of all, if it's true, Devil's Cord in the 60s. That is killer. That is disgraceful, but it makes sense. Dot and Bubble didn't go down well. Rogue didn't go down well. The only one that stands out is 73 Yards, and I think that'll have been for the folk horror bit at the beginning. Now, okay, it's a bit of fun. Do those figures make sense, or do you think they've been written so that they make sense and fill up our suspicions?
I don't need a bunch of numbers to tell me how bad the series is.
It seems to follow the trajectory of the ratings for each episode. You know, Brendan, you've graphed the ratings for the last few weeks, and it seems to follow that graph. One of the things I read where they said that the lowest AI Jodie episode, which was the Sea Devils one, was a 75. So that means that except for 73 Yards, every single one of these episodes, if this turns out to be true, this is all unconfirmed. If this turns out to be true, every episode is lower than the lowest Jodie audience appreciation figure, except for one.
And if you go to Rachel's stream, she has a moment when you actually talk about how that must feel for RTD.
Well, to be fair, I kind of, I've read the writer's tale, that book that he did, and he's like a lot of us. He has got a lot of insecurity that he thinks one day he'll be found out, like an imposter syndrome. It almost comes across. He doesn't say that, but when you read that book, and I do think in a way it's a shame, because I think he's lost his way, and I think it's all fallen down around him to the point where, you're looking back at the Chibnall era, which is getting double this on average. And I think it's going to come across as an awful shock. So I would feel sorry for him, but you can write well, and you can write nuanced, and you can write in your messages, and you can write in your politics if you want to, but you've gone so ham-fisted about it. And we've already had like 4 years of this from Chibnall that no one can be bothered anymore. And you've hit the point where everyone's like, I'm out. And the only schleps watching it are people like us. I'd love to see what happened if all the YouTubers and all the podcasters and the people who are watching it purely for stuff like this just stopped, because it'd definitely be in the 1 million then. I mean, it just into 2 million for Doctor Who is shocking, absolutely shocking.
Well, this is unofficial, and it'll never be official. So these will be rumors forevermore, because as Doctor Who TV website says, they've changed the rules again. Now, when media organizations change the rules, you can only think, what's up? Why have they're so gleeful, aren't they, when something works?
Happened.
Exactly.
They should be transparent though, because they're public funded. They're public funded. It's public money. They should be telling us exactly, like every other public body, what your results are. They should be telling us how it's doing, what your ratings are. I mean, audience appreciation. What are they? Because if they were good, you wouldn't have this. If the ratings were good, you wouldn't have us waiting, I think, an extra day than last year for them. Everything's so cloak and dagger, and yet they're telling us in articles it's amazing. And you're like,
Brendan, didn't Russell in that Radio Times article say that they were so excited about the great ratings that they were running around like mad?
Well,
or some nonsense like that. So if
English people don't run around with excitement.
They're the BBC running around like mad things. So then Disney give us the Disney numbers then, if they're so good that they're running around like mad things.
But this is it. He lives now in hyperbole. If he wants to be a showman, he does it very well to do the marketing. The trouble is the content never delivers. So, I mean, what do you think? I mean, I know me and Rachel have talked about this, but the Space Babies is up to 5.6 million. I've got this horrific idea that in the future, media organizations will be so desperate that once a baby pops out the womb, they'll line them up in front of a TV and a little remote to say whether they like it or not, so that they can count them as ratings. And if that baby every day watches the same episode because it just happens to be in front of them, it'll count as 100 views. This is getting silly. When will they stop measuring Space Babies? Because I would have thought the limit's up now. Come on. And the other
why do they stop at 28? Why don't they do why don't they do a plus 365? I'm sure the ratings would be a lot higher.
Can I just say, Sean, before I forget?
Yeah, sorry, gosh.
This is the classic farce of what they're doing at the moment. Why don't they put Ark in Space up? Why don't they put all the stories ever in Doctor Who? Because some of them are already on 20 million, and just have them all lined up in a row and say, Space Babies is up to 5 million, but Ark in Space is now on 21 million. Because to be quite honest, that's the farce of this argument.
Do you know what this whole era comes across as, and all these arguments about the ratings, and you see it online and you see it from people who are still enjoying it, which is their prerogative, but trying to sell these. It reminds me of that Alan Partridge quote, and where he says, you know, and Skirmish, a military-based quiz show on digital channel cable UK Conquest that has the largest audience share for a digital channel at that time of day in the Norfolk area. That's what it reminds you of. They're saying, oh, it's broken the records of ratings for this series, and it's like the desperately. If it's not going well, just keep your mouth shut, and just let it quietly die. Don't try and convince us it's good, because we can see we've got eyes. We're not thick. We can see that this isn't classic Doctor Who.
Well, definitely.
Here's a serious question for the panel. I'm really interested to hear what all of you think about this, and I ask this sincerely. Do you think the things he says in this? Do you think that he knows it's BS and he's trying to convince us of it, or do you think that he's trying to convince himself? And I ask that sincerely, because either he doesn't believe it and knows this is garbage, or maybe he's just so shocked that his agenda is crumbling around him that he's trying to convince himself that everything is okay.
I feel as though when I look at the English and the sequence of sentences, because he's just saying out loud, and you know how RTD talks, one sentence after another, streaming. When he says the awkward bit very early on, so he sandwiches it. He says, I'm very proud of it. And then he says, you know, there might not be the ratings we'd love. That's such a delicate way of saying this has been a disaster. And then we always want them higher. I can just hear RTD saying that. But they're building over the 28 days. He sandwiches a bit of very bad news, put delicately, and then quickly moves on to a little bit of gaslighting, really, of some nonsense figure that nobody's counting. And then he gaslights again to start talking about an under-30s market that nobody has ever said they were out for. We guessed there were, but they'd never said it before. He says that, but then, isn't it funny? He says Space Babies is on 5.6 million. He gives us a specific figure. But when he says we've won the under-30s and we're number one with them, he doesn't give you any figures, because the figures for the under-30s, as I've shown in my stream, and I think Rachel has, are in the hundreds of thousands. It's really minuscule.
They're stuffed. They're absolutely stuffed. And I think it reminds me of that Joker quote. And, you know, I try and stay away from the politics. I don't do politics on my podcast, but I think it reminds me of that quote that the Joker has in The Dark Knight. It's not about the money. It's about sending a message. And I think when you're completely, you think you're doing, you know, when you think you're, you know, this is what people want and this is what the young people want. I don't know why they're not trying to get everybody, because you've lost everybody else. It's a very strange way. It must be a real shock. But at the same time, you don't know whether, you don't know, because there's been no positivity around the marketing of this. There's been no, this is going to blow your socks off. It's all being, oh, the weather's been really, really bad. The weather's been really good. People have been outside. Go and touch grass. That go and touch grass has had more legs than anything in this series, because it's really caught on. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you know what? You don't want us to. It's like if you owned a shop and people came in your shop, and every time someone came in your shop and you didn't have what they wanted, or they said, oh, you don't have the DVD I want, you said, get out, don't come back. Well, that's not going to last long until your shop shuts, because people talk. You know, whenever somebody has a bad experience, they tell 10 people rather than one if it's a good experience. It's known. We know this. So it shouldn't come as a shock. And, you know, I've no sympathy. I'm so far past giving Doctor Who any benefit of the doubt. This is like 7 years of utter pap now. And it's like, I've had enough. And all they've got's the name and the logo and the theme. That's all they've got left. And people have had enough, I think.
And if you add to it, they keep changing the rules of how they measure. So the point is, by changing the rules all the time, they make it very hard to do a proper comparison. And even when you do try and get a decent comparison, they say that the world of TV watching has changed, which it has to a degree. But we can compare overnights for this season and we can see they've gone down. because we're measuring the same thing at the same time. Sorry, it's bad. Both me and Rachel have talked about the actual +7s and the fact that it's only adding 200, 300,000 extra. That's pretty pathetic when I think they set their stall out to win these youngsters who will be up at midnight.
One of the problems that I see, if you look at the Radio Times cover, is it's not inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
It's very bland. It doesn't tell me anything. All it's got on the front cover is just Nishiti Gatwa.
I've got some Radio Times from when it changed from Eccleston to. I've still got a couple of copies of that. I've got the full, and I can't wait to go back through them to see how they talk about the Doctor Who, and because sorry, Rachel, got that.
Oh no, carry on.
I've said enough.
I've just said that the Radio Times cover itself is not inspiring enough to get people interested.
Do you know what I noticed, Jeremy, about the cover? Sorry, I can't see you, so I don't know if you hadn't stopped talking. Sorry, I can only see the figures. You know what I've noticed, and it's really strange, and I'd love to see if anyone in the chat's noticed this, or the panel as well. Why is it in all of the promotional pictures and photos, Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor that sounds strange to say, looks really morose, really like Time Lord Victorious-esque. There's a lot of kind of pouting, a lot of kind of brooding darkness. You can call him Rogue. But yet, when you come to the episodes, it's the most light-hearted, angel delight you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's strange. Has anyone else noticed that they don't...
Marvel-esque, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Keep holding that up, Rachel. I wanted to respond to Jeremy. So the one thing, Jeremy, you know what I noticed when I see this cover? Where's Millie? Where's the TARDIS?
Exactly.
It's the Ncuti Gatwa show. And as I made a comment on Rachel's video where she was kind of analyzing the Radio Times. And I said the line at the bottom, which is like plus, here's the 5 episodes that you need to watch basically in order to understand RTD story. And I said, you know what? That sounds to me a lot like homework, and nobody likes homework, where it's like, here, you have to watch these 5 episodes in order to figure out what's going on.
Now
but
go off and do that.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
We're not.
If I can just kind of round up a few things here. On the left-hand side, you've got 2 examples of very popular TV in this day and age, week by week by week. On the right-hand side, you've got the under 30s that he says they're number 1 at. And this is from this week ending 2nd of June. So he tells us something. They're not quite number 1. 16 to 34 age group. Doctor Who, as you can see there, was in 4th place. And it won 460,000 from that age group. But that's 16 to 34-year-olds. That's not massive, is it? Then when you look at the kids at the bottom, 4 to 15-year-olds, 187,000, but again in 4th place. But these numbers, even if you added them together, is still under 1 million. And as we've shown you a few times now, if I get it there, 60% of the audience is over 35. There really should not be misfiring and aiming at a different market completely. Aim at a small, tiny market that doesn't even like TV, and you'll find a tiny result. That big result in the middle, which is the mainstream casual viewer, pitch for them. Don't do Teletubbies, Doctor Who, Space Babies. Pitch over the kids.
Well, they keep saying, don't they, that they want to make it, and I'm not getting into the politics of it. I'm trying to tiptoe as best I can. They say they want to make TV inclusive and TV for everybody. Right, well, make it for everybody then. Make accessible stories, make them good, because when there's decent TV on, people will turn up for it. They will. Yeah. The Bodyguard, the Great British Sewing Bee, which is genuinely good.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes it doesn't tell the whole story, especially in America. And I know I'm not trying to move the goalposts, but like American TV shows like Awake with Jason Isaacs, that got really poor ratings, but it was really well critically an audience that really well received, and yet it just didn't find its audience.
Well, since we've mentioned America and the goalposts, I did say, and I'll come to Rachel
soccer
afterwards.
posts.
The soccer posts in the 1994 World Cup. The way RTD and the BBC are operating Doctor Who at the moment, they've got a big goal to aim at, which is their viewers. And as you know, Diana Ross missed that target, and it still fell apart as if she'd scored. That's an analogy. That's a metaphor for current day RTD's strategy, missing an open goal. Go on, Rachel. Sorry.
Yeah, there was just one thing that I actually spoke about in my video on my channel about the ratings, and one of my viewers actually thanked me for saying it. I actually took the time to explain the difference between Sylvester McCoy's lowest scoring episode, which was Battlefield, which was like 3.6 something, and this current one, which is Dot and Bubble, which is placed 24th in the charts at 3.38 million. I actually took the time and said, I know it's all different, but the fact that this is scoring something that is lower than Battlefield, which would have only been TV and perhaps VHS and perhaps even those audio recordings at the time. Sylvester had nothing more than that. Whereas Dot and Bubble, today's Doctor Who, does have that.
What was the population of the UK back then as well? Because it's 70 million now. It'll have been about 60 then.
Yeah.
So they haven't picked up any more. Do you know?
And Gary, didn't you say that Battlefield didn't even get much promotion?
Yeah, season 26.
Yeah.
Did not got hardly any preseason promotion. So wasn't surprised that, like, for episode 1 of Battlefield, nobody knew it was there. They weren't even, BBC wasn't even bothering at this point.
Yeah, wow. And it was due to fizzle out. They were definitely on that way. So yeah, my concern is those figures are very similar to the Sylvester McCoy figures. What's going to happen now?
Well, as you know, he says in the article that they're dancing around. They're very happy people at the BBC, but he also confirms later on in the article.
I can't believe anybody's happy at the BBC.
Later on in the article, he says they haven't commissioned season 3.
There
and
you
I'm thinking, well, if everybody's so excited, why haven't they snapped his hands off? That's my issue there. So
someone's had a very severe telling off.
Wasn't there an article I read, and I can't remember where I read it. I thought, was it part of that article or somewhere else, where he says something and it's really telling, even when you read it. He says something like, oh, they haven't commissioned series 3, but I'm really confident, but you need to be careful, because he says something like pride before the fall or something like that.
He tries to be he tries to be humble. Unfortunately, as Rachel and me were texting, his arrogance comes. I'm sorry, but he falls into being arrogant.
The writing's on the wall for the show.
I'm a loving.
Brendan, do you believe that bit, Brendan, where he's already written 4 scripts for a season that's not even commissioned yet?
Well, you see, we now know how RTD operates. He tells you half truths. It's very, very like in Macbeth. This. So basically, he'll say he's done 4 scripts, or he's on to his 4th now. That doesn't mean they're completed. He's been working on 4 scripts. Is how I would take that. Now, I know me and Rachel were saying, is this him saying that basically he's got another season ready to go? So Disney, you might as well just give us a bit more money. It's just there ready. Or is he trying to save face? Or is he trying to is it call my bluff? I don't believe that full thing. I do believe something's set up for season 3, because I think every media executive would plan for every contingency. I don't know how far you'd have written 4 full scripts. You know, when he stays up till 2 a.m, checking whether it should be but or yet as a choice of word. That amount of detail, I'm not sure about that. What do you think, Rachel?
Yeah, no, that amount of detail going into writing, that's very finicky. It's too much. And I would be really surprised if he was actually writing anything now, because if it's not being commissioned, why would you be writing it? Maybe like potentially planning something out in your head,
Yeah,
possible. Yeah.
because he
So the
did
thing
say
is-
that in the Imagine documentary when he was talking to Alan Yentob. He did say, I've got the end of 2026. Now that's season 3. He was already saying that in November. So I'm sorry, but you know when he says something, and right, okay, you've got you've been driven in by taxi. You've had an ID at RTD. The end of season 3, darling. I can see how he's talking. Is it written? No. He's talking like a media executive who has to pitch before he's been given the check. That's what he sounds like.
Well, that's what they do, though, isn't it?
thing
They
is
go
that-
in and they
Yeah.
pitch.
He can't
The
see
thing
the
is-
he can't see the wood for the grain of for the grain of wood. I think.
But the rest of us, we can see him coming. Right, okay then, let's change pitch. Current Doctor Who, it always gets problematic, so let's creep you out. There we go. The creepiest settings in Doctor Who. I can only use the pictures of what people recommend. So, of course, I'm always tied there. You'll see Sensorites, you'll see Castrovalva, they're doing their laundry. I never knew what all that was about. You've got Barbara at the back. You've got Peter Davison sat on a stool with a girl from Castrovalva. You've got, yep. So, creepiest settings in Doctor Who. So, where do we start? In the thread. I know some of my panel had to say, what do you mean by creepy? Well, of course, it's open to interpretation. Classic
Sorry.
me. Right, I'll start the first one off. The Dead Planet.
Ooh. Yeah.
And I did think, do you know what? The first proper adventure, whether it's in colour or black and white, it was all radiation. It was completely dead. You saw that atrophied monster that was like a little dinosaur thing, that little flower that fell apart. Then you saw the city. Then you walked towards the city. It was creepy, and that's still one of my favourite shots in Doctor Who. And you know what? That city. And when I went to Dwas recently, Caroline Ford was there, and she told us the story of that city. She got the model. She took it home. And she's had it for years, that beautiful city. But there's a sad ending to the story because she said her cleaner, who she said it's all, I don't know, cardboard and paper. She said, beautiful city. She said it was on the top of her kind of wardrobe in one of her rooms. And she said the cleaner was going around and accidentally knocked it off and it smashed it to pieces. But she'd kept it from 1963. And everybody at Dwas is going, oh no! So it just got accidentally wrecked.
If you listen
that's
quietly,
right. That's right up there with wiping the missing episodes.
if you listen quietly, you can just hear Shooty Gatwa sobbing somewhere. Hang on, wait for it. Listen,
but
people, listen.
You see, so I'm cheating a bit because this is one of my choices, the Dead Planet, because you've got the metallic city, great model. The petrified forest, I think, was a brilliant place to go. Yeah. And they spent the whole episode, not in Daleks in colour, of course, but they spent time building up what the hell's been going on. And then you get creeped out when they approach the city, and then you see all those strange shaped corridors and that lovely clicking on the floor. And yes, you get the little eye stalks here and there and the sound of the dot. Classic. Oh, I'm giving away the second one there. So there you go. My choice is Dead Planet. Does anybody approve?
Yeah.
I approve.
Yeah. The jungle is, yes, very creepy.
Absolutely.
Well, there you go. So the second one there, Gary could see his was just slightly... Yes, I know. I've made everyone sad in the thread now because they're saying, oh, no, the end of the model city. I know, we were all gutted. You could hear this groan at Dwas. And I'll just say, before I move on to Gary's, Zeta Minor, Planet of Evil, says, Frank, just you wait a moment, because one of our panel has also said that. So, Gary, over to you.
Well, this is me. If Doctor Who had ever had a story that was actually set in RTD's office, that would have absolutely been the creepiest, but they didn't. So I'm going to pick the organic ship from Terror of the Zygons, which I think is an amazing design. Like right there where he reaches and he pulls out this kind of like little kind of organic donut, out, and the controls, which are these kind of like weird, kind of squishy organic controls that the Zygons use. And it's all supposed to be like living, I guess. And yeah, where he is kind of tying the not really tendrils. I don't know if they're supposed to be like blood vessels or whatever that they're used. And even the I mean, it kind of matches the almost kind of fetal design of the Zygons themselves, that this looks like, you have blood vessels in there, you have veins, arteries kind of going up, from the console into the depths of the ship. I just think it's an amazing design. And it's really quite creepy, because you can imagine if everything is like the soft and squishy of even the controls, I always imagine, well, what would the floor that they're walking on feel like?
Yeah.
Is it this kind of like soft, squishy, organic stuff, even for the floors and stuff? It's like, it really just kind of excites your imagination about how a ship like that would really work.
The thing is, Gary, you had everything working together. Good lighting, good design, good sound effects. It all came together to make a very impactful set. And it was creepy, because I remember when Sarah Jane had to sneak down doing her Nancy Drew with the torch. And, it had that element of you going in the back door, it seemed, to the spaceship. And the doors, just the whole thing. But I agree, it was the organic quality that really got me going. And just before I come to the next one, which is yours, Rachel, I'm just keeping an eye on the thread. People have mentioned Terror of the Zygons. People have mentioned Planet of the Spiders. Melanie Weston investigates. Let's see what's next. So, do you approve of Rachel's? So, Rachel, I think you went for maybe a different version of creepy, but I'm sure you'll tell us.
Yeah.
Let me just get it. Here we go.
Castrovalva. Yes, it is. It's a bit of a surprising one. And when you asked me about this originally, I said, I don't really know what to choose. And Planet of the Spiders would have probably been the other one. But this one is, to me, the creepiest. I think what freaks me out most in life are the things that are closest to me. And it's block transfer computation, or augmented reality, and or a virtual reality. It just sort of that sort of thing really freaks me out. I don't like virtual reality headsets. I don't like being in these unrealistic situations such as this. And this was obviously a trap that Adric set up for the Doctor under the influence from the Master. The Master was making him do it. And just going around seeing the same things when they're trying to escape from this computerized world, that is, to me, that is something that is really, really scary.
Yeah.
And like back then when it was written, that was like well advanced. But with the way technology has gone from then to now, it's potentially something that could become a very real thing in the future. Not that I'm fear mongering, of course, but it's creepy.
It was based on that Isha as well, wasn't it? The Isha drawings, where it's the impossible steps and all the rest of it.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
I think what terrified me about a Castrovalva's setting was particularly at the end when it was shut in and the Master was caught there, because you realise it was,
And the collapsing in of it, and the only person that can get them out is Adric, because he's the one that obviously created it, because he is intelligent. By the way, that is also one of Matthew's better performances. And I just think it's a clever story. And it's his dodgy regeneration story, isn't it? When he's recovering from regeneration. So, it's just that what to believe, what not to believe, and that finding out the Master is behind it. Well, we already know that kind of in advance, don't we? Because Adric beams himself into the TARDIS. But it's just what computers can do, and the power of computers and power of robots and things like that. And it's something that's becoming a very real reality today. It's amazing, because the Autons creep me out as well. So it's the closer it is to real life, the more I'm likely to be freaked out by it.
Well, it's registered with the thread, TARDIS Spider, 2 stories influenced by paintings, Sadako 24. I always found Castrovalva a more benevolent setting, really. Well, I know, but
and it's a really clever mystery that plays fair with the audience.
Yeah.
And then the resolution, which is the whole, the books are ancient, but they chronicle it up to the present day. And that's the paradox. That's a fair play paradox, but it's really well done.
It's very well done.
Yes. I know I never knew what to expect. You know, when you're watching a Doctor Who and you've heard snippets and you're expecting something and it didn't deliver, so you have to be ready for the different version you got. And sometimes it's the second viewing then later on where you appreciate what it actually became. It's one of those ones because your imagination is going, oh, I think this is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's nothing like it.
And it has that wonderful line at the end where I guess the guard, I can't think of the guard's name, but where he says, "You made us man of evil, but we are free." Yeah. That is such a great line.
It's brilliant. And it's so weird.
Yeah.
The story is weird.
There's so much.
There, I mean, that's it.
Yeah, you've got the picture I know, give everything
and it's
away.
Rachel saying that. I'm joking, Rachel. I'm joking.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
So here's your Jeremy, Planet of Evil, Zeta Minor, as somebody's already mentioned.
Yes, I like the jungle scene when it was filmed, when it was on film, and when it's in the studio, obviously it loses a bit of atmosphere. But I like the bit where Sarah Jane, when the doctor turns around and says, "Sarah, you all right?" He said, "I just suddenly felt like my mind left my body." You know, it's just the way that she says it. You know, it's classic.
And the sound effects, that rattle.
I know.
As the wind goes through the jungle. I agree with you that the stuff on film was outstanding. I was trying to capture elements of it. It was, I have to say, I was watching Planet of Evil a few weeks ago, and you know what you know, so I'm able to take myself out of the story and really nosy at the set. And I thought, how do directors and designers do this? Because it won't still have been sizable, but the way they got so many angles and so many different ways of seeing tendrils and everything. I mean, this was better than Spyridon. This was better than The Dead Planet. This was better than, I think, most stuff. And that's why we all know the famous moment. Philip Hinchcliffe had the designer Roger Murray Leach nominated for a BAFTA for this, because it is beautiful. And there's water involved as well. He's added complications, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah. But also, thinking about it, I had another think, and I thought, actually, the creepiest planet actually is Marinus. And there's lots of different aspects to that planet which are really nasty. I mean, the jungle bit, the ice world bit, and
the acid sea.
Those creatures in the glass jars.
Yes.
And the acid sea.
Yes.
You know, it's just, I find it kind of very a cold type of atmosphere on that planet. You know what I mean? It sort of freaks me out a bit.
But you think that was what, 1976, and you think of now they're so proud of the TARDIS console room and all the rest of it, and you think that was so ahead of its time. Huh?
It's barely been in it, the TARDIS. It doesn't fly anywhere. He doesn't use it. It sits there. They might go in it at the end. There's no bits in it where there's any kind of like companion parts where they talk to each other. There's the only time they've ever used it this series was kind of with Rogue. That was it. That was literally it. They just haven't used it.
It's just a big space that they hardly use.
Well, just as I'm about to come to you, Sean, I mean, I've used the Oculoid before as one of my subscription pictures because I love the Oculoid in this. Fantastic. Again, so well executed for its time. I didn't really see any contraption. It just fantastic.
This is people at the top of their game, though, working with limited resources to do the best they can for a love of it. This isn't people there going, right, we want to make this and we want to make content for people. This is somebody, this is like the love shines through. And I'm not saying the production people now aren't trying, because they are. You can see it, but it's hollow. It looks nice, but there's nothing behind the eyes, essentially.
So I'm going to come to yours next, Sean, but I'll just remind the thread. Are you all agreeing with us, or have we missed some? I mean, there's a few more to go, but have we missed some major ones out? So please tell us and we will share them. So Sean, yours was this.
Yes.
Not that scene. I've got a few. Don't worry. But go on then. You go for that.
Well, so obviously Dalek Invasion of Earth. I just absolutely love the mystery. You know, where they turn up beside the Thames, which is a frightening place at the best of times, and you're thinking, what's going on? It's silent. There's these strange posters all over the place. You know, saying things like, what does it say? It's for emergency regulations. It's forbidden to dump bodies into the river. And it's like, what has gone on here? And I just loved, you know, you get I mean, I don't know what they're called, but you know, the Dalek people with the helmets.
Oh, the Robomen.
Robomen.
The Robomen, that's it. Sorry, yeah. You get the Dalek coming out of the Thames. It's just a very, and you know, you can see parts of it are set and parts of it aren't, but I don't know. I just think it's so atmospheric. I mean, look at it. It's just so atmospheric. Oh, is that the film?
I'm cheating. Yeah, just to visualize.
I love these movies. I love.
Haven't seen them yet. Give me a chance. I know, shock horror. But I love the atmosphere because there's nothing better. And you know, as Gary was saying earlier about a lot of these, yeah, they are classic stories in terms of, you know, you turn up on a forbidden planet, everyone seems to be dead. There's no one there. What's going on? And I just love like the world building of it. There's factions, and I like it when a world, you know, I like a bit of post-apocalyptic stuff, but I like it when the world's there and people are trying to figure out what's going on. A little bit like, and I know it's the story wasn't great, but a bit like the Doctor's Daughter. Outside of the main, I loved the setting of that episode. I wanted more with that. I wanted more done with the idea of it. Like the execution was a lot worse, you know. But to watch this, you know, I absolutely loved it. I just loved the atmosphere, and obviously the black and white helps. But I just loved it and really enjoyed it. And you know, you're getting to know the first Doctor, you're getting to know the companions, because in the classic era that I'm discovering, and I meant to mention this earlier about Earthshock, the classic Doctors seem to have like companions from different planets, which is something which I don't understand why they don't do now, because what it allows you to do is it allows you basically to have a bit like with Spock and the Vulcans in Star Trek, or you know, or the Klingons. It allows you to have another group of people who aren't people, but you know, they're sentient beings, so they have a completely different culture. It allows you to have those difficult discussions about what it means to be human, how you go about things, and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's great.
Graham's talking about the colorized Dalek version and how it was butchered. We've mentioned, I know, C-1003. Obviously, Rachel's mentioned Bernard Cribbins. I know I've blurred the two stories together and their two executions. I know I took the idea of the Dalek coming out of the water and the posters from Sean, but I just thought it's nice to see a color version as well of how it was depicted. Although I do really enjoy the BBC version of the Dalek Invasion of Earth. And I mean, come on, BBC props. I remember even looking at the plans of the Daleks when they've got a Dalek near water and everything. But to use that Dalek and come out the water, genius idea. And
one of the best cliffhangers. Everyone. It's an amazing cliffhanger. Amazing. Really.
Well, Sean, let me ask you. I'll ask Sean and Brendan this. What do you think the Dalek was doing there down under the water, if you had to guess?
Well, he's working for Thames Water because, although, you know, Sean was talking about you can't put dead bodies in the water, but you can put poo. So
that Dalek didn't last long when it came out of the water.
that Dalek has a bit of a hobby of collecting shopping trolleys. So that's what it was. Yeah, that's my headcanon.
Actually, it's not very realistic. It should have lots of brown and turds all over it as it comes out. So that would be. I mean, people are saying
excrement. Sorry.
There you go. Very good.
Sorry, everyone. That was low-hanging fruit.
Remember Bernard Cribbins, since we're giving them a moment. Remember when Bernard Cribbins had even suggested to RTD that in the old days they could cover the eye stalk with some mashed potato or something. Mm-hmm. Well, of course, just some raw sewage will do. And then I cannot see, and then it crashes into some boat or something. But people are joining in really here now. We're in trouble, Thread. None of us said Necros. Oh, well, that's a good choice. Necros, remember, it's Revelation of the Daleks.
Revelation, yeah.
Oh, it's a good idea. The Weeping Angels is mentioned by Melanie Weston, and the setup there, I totally get it. Oh, we didn't mention that one. And Seeds
Wester
of Doom, the
Drumlins.
first two
Yeah,
parts.
that's a good one.
That is a good one. These are good call outs. We tried our best. I suppose you can't mention everything. The Impossible Planet. That was creepy, wasn't it? Toby, and looking behind you. Loved all that. That was good. And when you saw that lady in space and that beautiful music that lamented her death. Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah, Scooty Finestra. I love that bit where they look up. The music in that episode's amazing. See, this is what I mean. That doesn't get brought up enough. That two-parter is amazing, and this is why you think, Russell, you did it before. Where's this gone?
He's another one of mine, which might surprise people because the Centaurites is normally slagged off as up there with the Web Planet as boring. It's too long, I think, as 6 episodes. However, I think episode 1 and you don't really see them. I'm cheating here with some of the photographs, but it's basically builds up the suspense. The TARDIS key is burnt. Barbara and
I like the feet.
Oh, I know. I always accuse John Daly, our panelist, of being a Centaurite because, of course, we're the Sense for you, and I named the whole show after this program. So
when you see it in the porthole, that's really creepy.
Oh yeah, well, you know the bit I'm going to come to, which is that man there in the bottom right. He's become almost zombified. Then the other 2 people were seen as dead, but then they're revived. And then look at that big device in the top left, where a sneaky little Sensorite burns the TARDIS keyhole so that they can't escape. Because actually, the First Doctor says, "Let's leave." He doesn't want to get involved.
Yeah.
And then, I'm a glutton for a colour William Hartnell photograph. But they look creepy anyway. You only see a little bit of them in part 1. Oh, and then I'm jumping. Yeah, and I'm trying to think. I thought I had the shot. It's the classic shot, when it comes up to the window at the end. And for some reason, I've got it, but I haven't put it up. That's very stupid. But yes, that is one of my call-outs, the Sensorites, because I think it builds up a very tense atmosphere. They're approaching at the end. They're surrounded. They invade your mind. There's an element, Gary, of Star Trek. What are them? The Mentoids, is it? The ones who tortured Captain Pike?
Those were the... Oh, I cannot believe that.
Was it Ferengi? No, it wasn't Ferengi.
No.
It was in the very original series.
No.
Pike was in the trial, and
I can't believe it. I need a timeout.
Yeah, the window shot.
Can I, whilst Gary Googles, can I put in an honourable?
I really am, because I can't believe I.
You've got to. It drive me mad. I wouldn't sleep. One of my honourable mentions is the Planet of the Ood. The one.
Yes.
Where they go and because I love the music, I love the fact it was snow. I love that you got that whole that weird music for them at the Ood. That kind of psychic link they have, and it was such an atmospheric, episode.
I agree with you on that one, by the way, Sean. Peter Harrington's agreeing. The episode from Star Trek is The Cage. Yes,
right.
I've forgotten whether they're called
Telosians.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Oh, is that it? Oh,
well done, Ken Parker.
Rachel, I get a timeout for that.
Yeah, you do.
So, Jeremy, this is the final one. Exelon, if you want to talk through Death to the Daleks.
Yes. Episode 1 is very creepy as well, particularly because you've got the mist and the dark, and then you've got the TARDIS, which is on low power. And so I found that quite creepy as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great world. I mean, you've got that horrible choral noise of the Exelons. You've got... They allow a lot of sound effects in episode 1, don't they? Because like you say, you've got the mist, you've got the darkness, you've got the creaking to get out of the TARDIS. So it's mysterious even then. And I think it's in episode 1, does one of the Exelons sneak into the TARDIS?
That's right.
When Sarah's in there. And it's all dark, and we're in the same blooming quarry as usual. I think it looks like the same quarry as for Caves of Androzani, but it's really creepy. And the oil lamp. Then you see skeleton creatures, and then the beautiful model of the Exelon City. I mean, I still think that is just class.
Good model. Yeah. Good model.
And look at that.
The TARDIS isn't. It's not as much of a fortress in Classic Who. I'm realizing every booker seems to be able to get into it. Like every episode, someone's got into it.
Well, they had to crank the door open, didn't they? So because it was just ajar. So and Sarah had to
And you know, that Root
Yeah.
character had always
Yeah.
reminded me of the George Powell War of the Worlds movie.
Yeah.
It's
Yes, I was going to say,
it
yeah.
really calls back to me
Yes.
similarity of the movement and even the look of the head there.
Oh, yeah, outstanding. I mean, I think you can see one wire when it's over the river. But what a shot to set up in 1974 for them. The expense of getting a crane and doing all that. Love it in that cave corridor and the noise of it. And my God, whether it's, you know, model on a wire and everything, but when it fires at somebody and then you get the spark. So it would, as Jeremy has picked this one, but I went for the whole world, Jeremy, because you had the Exelons, Belal, who was part of a subspecies of Exelon. You had the city. You had this root creature. Fantastic.
Again,
little
goes
place.
back to what I was talking earlier about the world building that Classic Who has, even in episodes that aren't particularly great, because they're not all pearlers. But when you watch even the ones that kind of don't connect with you, the world building is absolutely marvelous.
Yeah.
And you know, and you think that's what Modern Who, and I won't go on about it. That's what they've lost. You're watching it and you don't care because the characters don't seem real, and you think, "Where's the world building? I don't believe this is 1813. I don't believe this is really a planet full of rich kids." I won't go any further with that one. You know, so you think the worlds don't feel real, so they can look as flashy as they want, but if you don't believe in what you're watching, you can't get invested in it. You don't care about the characters. It's just you forget about it. But Classic Who doesn't have that. It's marvelous.
Well, apart from some of our little misses there, but of course we tried our best. I think we've registered with the thread. The Sensorites at the window always reminds me of Danny Glick tapping at the window in Salem. Oh yes,
that is one of the scariest scenes ever.
Yes. It freaks me. Yeah, that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good call.
Let me in.
Oh, yeah, yes. Well, actually, you've agreed with it yourself, haven't you, Retro?
Yeah.
Oh God, how old were we when watching that? That was killer. That's up there, Jeremy, with Armchair Thriller, the nighttime one. Ooh, you know the shadow on the chair from ITV. Remember ever watching Armchair Thriller?
Oh yes, Armchair.
Oh, all you saw, the opening sequence was just an armchair, and then a shadow lands on the armchair, and it's freaky music.
Wow.
And the one I remember, this is the 70s, Gary, The Faceless Nun. Whoa, dear me, I was a Catholic kid.
Was that like a Twilight Zone type of show?
Yeah, I suppose it had an element of that. Some weeks it was a political murder.
Okay.
But I think it was only even just half an hour. But my dad, it was the classic. Your mum's out, and your dad says you can stay up as long as you don't tell your mum. And we stayed up, but we'd have nightmares from Armchair Thriller.
X-Files was my version of that. X-Files,
Yeah,
the X-Files theme tune creeps me out to this day because I remember, I can only remember what I'm gonna have to watch those back as an adult. But there's one where they have these plants that like strangle people and stuff. And that episode freaked me out. Yeah, X-Files, I still can't listen to that theme tune without it freaking me out.
Well, Paul Richards agrees with us on that one. And we've got C 2003. Oh, well, if we're going down this score, I do remember the Hammer House of Horror and the music on a Friday night at 10:30 after the news. Whoa, ho, ho. Tales of the Unexpected was good and it was bad. The one I used to have to teach in school was Lamb to the Slaughter, where... I mean, you know, Roald Dahl, classic, where, of course, the coppers were investigating a murder. Mm-hmm. And, of course, she's already
she's cooked
she's already got her husband in the freezer, hasn't she? And,
there's that classic line right at the end where the copper turns to the other one and says, do you know what? I reckon the weapon's hiding right around nose and they're eating this. Yeah, I love that.
It has a touch of Hannibal Lecter when he was eating the copper's brain while he was still alive. You know, that kind of...
fine bottle of Chianti. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, we're doing Doctor Who, but we all link it to other stuff, don't we? Right. Are you ready, panel? We've discussed ratings. We've discussed creepy settings. We've discussed Earthshock. What's there left to talk about in the minutes left? Well, predictions time. Yep. So, folks, there's our synopsis for The Legend of Ruby Sunday, and at last it's a two-parter.
The legend.
The Doctor and Unit investigate Ruby's past, but as the time window reveals horrifying secrets from Christmas Eve, the mysterious triad technology unleashes the greatest evil of all, Sutek.
Why is the Doctor dressed as Action Man? Crossed with a PE teacher.
I was just going to say, because if Rachel's read the magazine as well, and Radio Times, in the article, he does talk about, sorry, not in the RTD one, within the article, they talk about the time window. There's certain sets that have not been shown to any journalist because it would give too much away, it says. The time window is one of them. And there's another room that they can't even name the journalists. Anyway, so there you go. That's that element. So
it's gonna be the room with Sutek in the chair.
Probably.
Probably. They're all wearing like special lanyards and all of that, aren't they?
Yes. So just so everybody knows, so there's the synopsis on the left. On the right-hand side, here's one of the first review scores. 7.5 out of 10. Part one of the season finale of Doctor Who leans into solving the season-long mysteries. Please do. And still has character moments. Please do. Where the actors shine. But the leaning into plot and series continuity makes it the least interesting episode of this season. However, it's still fun and compelling as the writing leans into Neil Gaiman territory and goes full supernatural horror by the cliffhanger ending. There you go. Any red flags there, Gary?
Neil Gaiman territory?
Well, the fact that I think whoever wrote this review is most honest in the middle, but then he realizes, oh, wait a minute, I got to say something good or this is not going to go out. So they have to kind of salvage it at the end by comparing it to Neil Gaiman. I'm confused by season-long mysteries. You mean the little Easter eggs that have been popping up? I don't even really call it a mystery. It
says in the same RTD. The whole article on the Radio Times, Gary. There's another bit where they say within the first few moments of the episode, the Susan Twist thing sorted out. The not Mrs. Flood. The Ruby Sunday's mother thing is sorted out.
Really?
Well, that's what it says.
She's dropped herself off. Boring.
I expect, honestly, I expected the Ruby's mom thing to kick to next season. That's the one thing I thought they wouldn't answer.
Well, I've got it. I mean, I've got it for most of these things here. So most of this episode takes place at Unit. Yeah. Hey, this is what Disney money gets. Yeah, this is the most plot-heavy episode of Doctor Who this entire season. Well, thank God for plot. Leaning into all the long-running arcs that Gary was mentioning and going full plot as the Doctor asks for Unit's help.
It's plop.
Yeah, the majority of the story is to show viewers how cool Unit is. Oh, here we go. Before they end up being completely ineffectual against the ultimate menace. It's actually the least interesting episode of the season because of all the leaning into season-long arcs.
Wow.
Oh, well, why didn't Davies just give them the homework of going to watch all of the John Pertwee era? That would have
Why didn't he spend that? Yeah, instead of giving us homework, why didn't he do another redraft?
Yeah.
You know, stop giving us work to do. I'm not getting paid, mate. So anyway, here we go. It starts with the Doctor and Ruby diving right into solving the season-long puzzles. So this is what I mean, Gary. Who is the woman played by Susan Twist, who's popped in by a cameo?
Okay.
Who is Ruby's birth mother? Then there's the one that the Doctor hadn't even stopped to ask, who is the one who waits? The answers come thick and fast, and nobody is happy by the time the cliffhanger happens.
We're all the one who waits. We're the ones who are waiting for a decent story.
The thing is about the one who waits, they've not really made that big a deal of it. I was expecting more Pantheon of the Gods throughout the entire series. Instead, we had 2 Doctor Light episodes, a Fart for Boom, and a couple of mentions of the Pantheon of the Gods.
It's been a big fat nothing this series, hasn't it? It's been a big fat nothing.
I'm curious whether Jeremy's excited for the finale now.
I don't think he's watching it.
I'm not watching it.
We've got cinema. We've got cinema.
Doesn't all this make you just want to dive in and watch it, Jeremy?
No.
That's fair.
Absolutely. Basically.
Now,
look at the state of that. Look at the state of that.
Well, let's enjoy some speculation and let's
Okay.
see what the threads thinks. I mean, Gary was suggesting the other day we need to now nail our colours to the mast a bit, don't we, Gary? We're
Winter
about
is
to
coming.
start the season finale. What are the answers? Who wants to go first? Who is the big me? Who is the ultimate menace? How is this going to be resolved?
RTD.
What happens to Ruby Sunday? Who wants to give it a go first? Because I'm going to record us all saying it, including myself.
Can I go first? Can I go first? I'll
then,
get my
John.
theory out the way. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry to do this, teacher, and I'm not mocking your class.
Oh, here we go.
I just don't care anymore. It's not going to be any good. It's not going to make any sense. They'll dredge up some really good classic Who monster from the past, or it'll be something random and rubbish like, oh, Ruby's the key to it all. And I just don't care anymore. Like, I'm here for this, watching it for this. And it's not going to be good because the rest of the series has been absolutely dreadful. And I mean, even by Chibnall, I'd rather watch the Flux again than this series. That's how bad this is. So I don't care what like stupid answers RTD's written and how clever he thinks he is. Well, you're not. You're not as clever as you think. And it's rubbish. That's my prediction.
If you look
but
at
I'm staying positive, open-minded.
Well, yeah, but without taking any risks with I've noted, I'm a teacher, I've noted you've taken no risks. Melanie Weston investigates. If you look at the list Melanie makes here, who's got the tooth, Mrs. Flood, Susan Twist, the one who waits, who is Ruby, what is the snow about? There's 5 things there, and then Ruby.
Oh, and
Sunday's
the boss.
mother.
Who's the boss?
Yeah, and Ruby Sunday's mother. So that's about 7 things to solve in 2 episodes. It's just too much. It's just too much. Bogged it down.
I think I read somewhere that Mrs. Flood was going to be resolved next series. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
I quite like that snow part as well. That is something that is like from Moffat or RTD's first era. That really could have worked because that, like, oh my god, I've never seen this before. But it just, yeah, we'll see.
Actually, Peter's right. It is like a bit like Hellraiser gone wrong. That Sutek mockery. C1003 thinks it looks low-key.
It's a Winter Walker, isn't it? It's one
TARDIS Spider. Yes, I agree with that as well. Yes, they are pyramids behind TARDIS Spider. Loads of them. So, you know, I have been saying for years now, haven't I, Rachel? It's Sutek.
You have. And I did a whole theory on my channel that actually led me to Sutek. And that was not me being guided by you, even though I already knew what you had said.
I'm a big media influencer, you see, Rachel.
I did a whole digging on Pantheon of Gods, actually, which is how I ended up with Sutek.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Can I ask you a question? Because obviously I'm more akin. I'm not as young, unfortunately, but I'm more akin to RTD's target audience now. So I'd like your ideas on this. Why, if he's going for this new under 30s audience who won't have watched Classic Who, if he does tie into somebody like Sutek, I haven't got a clue who Sutek is. I haven't seen the episodes yet. The young audience won't have seen it. So why is he doing it? What's the point in it?
Sean, that's because the rumor is, I don't know if I've got it in my next one. Let's just check. Yes, I have. There you go. For once, you've teed me up slightly. You can see on the right there, Tales of the TARDIS, that there's going to be a Tales of the TARDIS next week. And so there's a suspicion, Sean, that for the not wees who don't know much about Pyramids of Mars, if it is Sutek, that before you see Sutek really kick off in the second episode, you watch Tales of the TARDIS and you watch Pyramids of Mars.
Oh, they're doing the whole Marvel Disney thing where you've got to watch like another series to get what's going on in the main series. It's just lazy writing.
But if it was Pyramids of Mars, you'd enjoy it.
Oh, no. I have no doubt the original Sutek story is probably going to be... I can't wait to watch it, but why... I don't understand why you'd tie it into that, because if you're going for this new audience who don't watch that, it's not going to mean anything. It's not going to... They're not going to be, oh my God, this is, because this isn't like the Master.
So what do we think of this? Thanks, Connor, for this. Ruby was born 2004 Christmas. Susan final episode aired Christmas 1964. Ruby equals the anniversary of the 40th of Susan leaving. Oh, that's interesting. That's well worked out.
Maybe she sees maybe she sees maybe as Ruby Sunday drops herself off, she walks past a regenerating 10th Doctor in the corner. He's just seen Rose, and he's like, ugh! And she, maybe Ruby turns to him. Who knows?
What about this one? Frank here says it's Sutek's wife who says, "Hey, where have you been for thousands of years? There's stuff to be done in the house, and that back room needs so." Yeah, it could be a domestic because he likes domestics. RTD.
Maybe they've changed Sutek to a woman. I take it Sutek was a man before, right? Or
Yeah.
alien. Yeah.
He's a man, baby.
They could argue that because he's behind a mask, you can just
right.
And be a woman.
But he's changed. He's obviously had cosmetic surgery because he's no longer got that long feature. Right, Gary. I know what we're doing here. We're all avoiding the truth. Gary, what is your forecast, Mr.
All right, so here's my forecast. Here's how it's going to play out. So at the end of Pyramids of Mars, the Doctor sent him down the corridor of time to, eternity or infinity or whatever, right? So Sutek has spent all this time, stuck trying to come back, and so immobile. And so what I think when Sutek got free, or it's going to turn out that when Sutek got free, Sutek hasn't been, he's been stuck in the corridor for all eternity, so he hasn't had time to wash his hair. So I think the snow is going to be Sutek shaking off the dandruff, and that's how it's manifesting, as snow everywhere Ruby is. And then Sutek realizes, okay, look, if I'm going to take over the world again, I'm going to need to make some money. So that's why he takes a job as the lunch lady in the Beatles place, to make some money, because that was also Sutek. And Sutek also sold his likeness to the company in Boom, for all the ambulances. It's just a way for Sutek to make money throughout history. And that's why he's appearing. And then, in Rogue, posed for a painting, to kind of make some money from the artist. And then to just go out and get some exercise. That's why Sutek was hiking in the 73 yards to get a little bit of exercise before he ends up deciding to take over the world. So I think that's how they're going to tie together all these various Sutek appearances. I also predict that the scene from the original trailer of Ncuti squatting and screaming, if you remember that scene, where he's squatting in the door of the TARDIS and screaming, that's I think going to be the final shot of either this episode, or it's going to be the final shot in the finale, because something happens to Ruby.
Why do you think the TARDIS has been groaning? Because that was also mentioned in the article, that we'll get the answers to why the TARDIS has been groaning.
Well, we still don't know why. We still don't know why the TARDIS barfed Jodie out,
and why it joined in the musical at the end. So yeah, well, obviously number one, I think it's Sutek. The thing is, Sutek in the guise of Susan Twist, because that's clearly, I think that's Susan Twist's face, isn't it? In that, as that creature. So Sutek has manifested himself across time via that triad technology thing.
Herself, I reckon it'll be.
The trouble is, this is the classic. This is like season 1. This is like season 3, when you get the whole of the Earth invaded, Daleks everywhere, then Troglodytes everywhere, and it's all out of control. And by
like the Mr.
2,
Master.
And by part 2, it gets resolved very easily. So yeah, the big build-up, the payoff not so hot. I mean, if this is the ultimate menace, the truth is you're stuffed. I mean, if how can you be the ultimate menace, but you can defeat him by some gizmo? And what worries me is whether Ncuti's Doctor's going to sing, entertain, do a song and dance, because he did that with the Goblin King. How are we going to get out of the ultimate menace? It'll be some great wheeze that he distracts him. Ruby Sunday's mother is going to be some clever twist, isn't it? I thought for a while it would be Jodie Whittaker, as in the Doctor drops off the kids to,
it could be, that's not a bad shout, to be fair. That would be her. I mean, to be fair,
I didn't know you wanted. I'm sorry, Brendan. I didn't know you wanted serious predictions.
Well, yeah.
Do you know what though? They've at every turn this series, just when you think they haven't quite jumped the shark enough, they've like beaten my predictions at every turn. They've gone under my expectations every time. They've set a new low. So this is probably going to be the most disappointing. It probably won't be like RTD's original ones. It'll probably be a lot of talking. It sounds like if it's the least interesting episode, and these are the people who are meant to sell it.
Well,
so Brendan, it sounds to me like you're predicting that every single one of the mysteries, every single one, they're going to wrap up. Is that what you're predicting?
That's what it said in the article, apart from Mrs. Flood. And Mrs. Flood, this was put up by Russell Davies himself, so you know he's playing silly devils. Mrs. Flood in Cherry Sunday's bedroom, but what, why, how?
Sorry.
Leave her alone.
No,
This weekend,
I'm not saying it, guys. I'm not saying
first of a 2-part finale in which truths are told, secrets are revealed, and horror is unleashed. And so you know what he's like. Is he tricking us, gaslighting us? Why are we bothered about Mrs. Flood?
I reckon Mrs. Flood will sing a song. I just can't say I love you. Who knows? Who knows in this series?
Well,
Could be
if she
anything.
can sing, she can do
Well,
that.
yeah.
Rose
Well,
will
hey,
save the day.
Yes.
Sean, you've got more to look forward to. Our Yasmin Finney's back, so Rose Noble's back.
Oh, my day is complete.
Yeah. And we've got that great landing by the TARDIS, like a space shuttle.
Is that's that torch? I think that's the Torchwood symbol on that guy's lanyard. I said it right from the start.
You did. I remember you
the
saying
Torchwood ages ago.
She's just seen herself in the mirror when she is Sutek. That looks as though that's that reaction shot.
Okay, so a serious question then. Once again, every single episode has featured RTD lifting or stealing or whatever, from either himself or Moffat. So if that's the case, that previous shot, and I hadn't seen that shot before you just put it up, Brandon, with that's that one. So basically, is he going to be ripping off? Is he going to be ripping off the whole Professor Yana thing, where he doesn't know who you really are, and then all of a sudden you realize who you are? So if that's the way it's, you know what I mean?
This
Just
series
about
has
the
lost
good
its.
setup.
Yeah, this series has lost its chronology. It's lost. Thank you. It's lost. It's been a late one. No, I'm usually good with words. I stuffed that one. It's the accent. No, I think with it's lost like its own history. So like there was a scene where the doctor, if you can call him that, said to Rogue, "Oh, I'd love to show you Gallifrey one day," and I thought it's a wasteland. It's like it was a bit of a so it's like I don't know. Is this person going to be a Time Lord?
I think RTD's buying time, so he's going to solve everything in the end, so he can say that. Melanie Weston investigates, who obviously comes up with loads of thinking and theories. Mrs. Flood tells Cherry who she really is, and I think it's Ruby's mum.
I have theorized that.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Briefly, but then I changed my mind.
I wondered why Mrs. Hold on, Sean. I wondered why Mrs. Flood was next door, always nosying, always watching. Is she like kind of watching from afar? She dropped the baby off, but she wants to know how she's doing, or she's like a guardian. But then other people have shown a photograph of Mrs. Flood, and she's always I've said this myself, that she's never inside. She's always pottering as if there's a TARDIS there. And then the doors are dark blue, and people are wondering whether the whole house is a TARDIS. I
always theorize that
maybe she's an estate agent. Maybe she's an estate agent because they say that in London all the time. Hey, it's bigger on the inside. It's bigger than it looks, and it isn't.
We do have Bonnie Lanford back, of course, and Bonnie Lanford. She's a spy in this, isn't she? She's been spying a bit like Elizabeth Sladen did in School Reunion. So
that may be the one thing I'm looking forward to, because I give a lot of credit for Bonnie Langford. So I mean, it'll be nice.
This will be an older version of Mel as well. Mel was quite young and naive, I guess, when she was in it originally.
Yeah,
they're doing the Kate Lethbridge-Stewart character to death.
Well, you could argue
actress. I like her, but it's too much.
You could say the same with the Brigadier, though. Every week in the 70s, the Brigadier was there. Now, this scene looks interesting, as in, it's the legend of Ruby Sunday. You've had Melanie Weston investigates speculation, and Ruby looks as though this is a big reveal. It looks as though she's upset. She looks as though she's concerned. She's found out something in that
what
magic
she found
box.
in the shoebox under the bed. Oh dear.
Yeah. So
Don't
there's
go
that. And then we're going to work out what this Vlinks is up to and whether somebody's imposted it.
That looks awful.
That shape of that mask kind of looks like a Sutek mask. Sort of the eyes and, well, not the eyes, but the shape of it. Do you know what I mean? Without the horns, obviously.
Looks like what happens when you put your Christmas lights away and then you try to get them out of churn, they're all tangled to bits. That looks worse than all the old stuff we've just seen. A big eye.
So Brendan, what do you think about this, Brendan? I'm just thinking about the titles now. So this next episode is called The Legend of Ruby Sunday. And the final episode is Empire of Death. Could it be, and I don't know, and I know I've been kind of joking around a lot, but this is a serious question. Could it be that all of the Ruby Sunday mystery will be shoveled into this one episode and answered, and then Sutek will arrive like in the last 2 minutes or whatever, and then make it, because we're assuming that Sutek's going to be the thing amongst all of the whole 2 episodes. I'm wondering, with these titles, it sounds like they're splitting it. Like this one's going to be all about the Ruby mystery. The finale is going to be all Sutek.
Yes, I think you're onto it. And if you break it down another way, the synopsis, I think, almost gives it away. They haven't shown you the time window set because it's obviously very crucial. Time window. It's a bit twee, isn't it? So the time window, like a time tunnel and all the rest of it, you've got the time tunnel, I dare say, is like a mirror. You can go 2 ways in it. It's a bit like a hard take on me. So what's going to happen here is you're going to have, they open a time window to try and find out about the mystery of Ruby Sunday. They solve that, like you said, Gary. But while they solve that, somebody comes through from the other side, who was Sutek, who, as you know, was pushed into the future in Pyramids of Mars.
Right. Yes.
So I think he comes back down through the time window. Is it the time window? I can't remember what the blooming call it now. Yeah. Honestly, it's so twee, but there you go. I think you're spot on, Gary. It's a two-part.
No, just a guess, a wild guess.
Yeah,
I think there's a bigger mystery to be looked at with Ruby Sunday. I think the fact she got dropped off, I genuinely think there's a bigger mystery of who stole her personality. That's the bigger mystery for me, because she just doesn't have one. So,
and you know, Brendan, if your guess is right, if your surmising is correct, that would make yet another time this season that the Doctor has caused the problem that they now have to go and fix.
Yeah. But he's got a Sonic there. I mean, I'm saying in my Inspector Clouseau here, look, he's got his leather jacket, so he's back to Chris Eccleston. Some people said since RTD never changed.
It's shrunk in the wash, hasn't it? It's very short.
That looks better than some of the stuff he's had.
But he's got his sonic screwdriver, so he's playing with that screen again.
Am I right in thinking, Rachel, that actor's passed away, or am I mistaking him for somebody else?
I don't think he's passed away. He's about 15, I think.
No, he's not. He's well and truly alive and well.
Don't go starting rumors, Sean.
No. That was a genuine. That's not a joke. That was a genuine one.
He's fine. He was going to be the voice in Space Babies, if you remember Unleashed. And RTD and Julie Gardner or Jane Tranter looked at each other and said, "Isn't he cute? Isn't he gifted? We need to give him a bigger role."
Is that a quote? I don't want to know.
No. Yeah, well, let me tell you. The truth is, Sean, if you saw it, they were saying, I mean, I assumed they thought, oh my God, he's got charisma. He's got a lot of talent. We can't just have him being the Space Baby's voice. So they sacked him from that job, so to speak. I mean, you know what I mean? They said to him, we're going to replace you on Space Babies and we're going to give you, I'm going to write in a bigger part for you. So now he's like a unit special advisor.
Right. No, I genuinely, I must be mixing him up with somebody else because that wasn't a joke. I've mixed him up with somebody, I think.
It's all right.
That was me being serious there for a minute.
There was a little person who did pass away recently. It wasn't him. It was another one. And I can't remember his name.
Right. Well, I might be mixing up.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't see any pictures of Jinx in all this. Does that mean that Jinx isn't going to be back?
Where's Donna? Because Donna agreed to work for you, didn't she? She got a day off.
Yeah, there's no Donna at the moment. There's no David Tennant.
Yeah, why is Ruby there? Is she now working? Not Ruby.
Rose.
Rose. Is she now working for UNIT?
Well, because remember, she said in Starbeast that she's better than any male presenting Time Lord. So she's better.
Okay.
So she's
I
still
gotcha.
better. And she's been well fed, because I remember the last scenes in The Giggle, she was moaning about the meal. She was a right pain in the neck. And, all she did is moan about the meal she was given by her parents or grandma.
Okay.
So maybe she's covering for Donna.
Is she going to be referring to Shooty as a male presenting Time Lord? I wonder.
Yes, she better be careful. Yeah, because he might say, excuse me, honey, you refer to me as they.
Babes.
I know he might. This might be the killer scene when the Doctor says, "Refer to me as they." Baby.
No, this is when they land and they have that. The show me the loving or give me the loving.
Yeah, this is going to be either. Well, wait a minute. So let's surmise. If the scene you showed before, that last scene with the time window, if we're guessing that that's going to be the final shot of this next episode, then I'm predicting that this is going to be the final shot of the finale.
Do you know what Shooty looks like there? Do you know when you say to your kid or your nephew or your niece or whatever, what does a lion do? Rah! That's what it looks like. I can't take it seriously.
No, this was a live shot. This was a live shot when Shooty saw the ratings for the previous episode.
Like 10 quid now, Brendan. 10 quid now that he's crying and it all pulling really,
Well, so and there's maybe the snow. I'm not sure what that bottom shot is. Is that the snow? We need to find out what the blooming snow is. So there you go. Our preview of Legend of Ruby Sunday has been led to mockery and a bit of speculation.
Have we? If we haven't convinced Jeremy to watch it, we have failed.
Ken Parker says,
Jeremy.
Ken Parker says, "You've convinced me. I won't watch now." So
we put someone off.
Ken, how dare you?
Some people have said that shot was replaced with a memory TARDIS.
Shows the loving.
So, just before we tidy
show
up,
us the loving.
If I just explain to people, here we go again. So that was one of my saloons yesterday when I actually was looking at the figures, but I was saying that actually Russell Davies, because of maybe targeting the under 30s and everything, that's why he's turned into a new modern day Mary Whitehouse. Sonic Screwdriver can't look like a lethal weapon. The Davros can't be evil in a wheelchair. In Boom, you can't have her looking very dead on the floor. Remember, Stephen Moffat complained about that. So basically, Russell Davies has now turned into our arch nemesis, Mary Whitehouse. That's one of mine.
I think you're going to be getting a call from Russell's lawyers there, Brenda.
TV ratings conundrum, where I say they're missing their target by a mile. How stupid is that? We've just obviously tonight been going through a bit of nostalgia and previewing. You know that on Sundays we will do our usual. We will do a review at 7 p.m. and midday, Sean, not this week, but next week at midday with my Aussie friends, we will be doing a reaction to The Legend of Ruby Sunday. It's a busy day on Sunday for me, a double whammy. And so please, with all this effort, I say target 600. I've gone over 600 now. I'll have to change it again, but I'm not mourning. But
Brendan, can I ask you a question?
1 second. Spiders, we've all got spiders in our houses. They're all my agents. They're out there. If you see a spider under the settee, it's one of my spies. Have you clicked and subscribed? What was it, Sean?
No, it's all right. I'll ask you later. It's just a daft.
And subscribe to where is she? You moved. Subscribe to Brendan's channel and subscribe to
Rachel. Review and
Thank
Sean's you. And Sean's as well.
And
Sean,
and
Sean. I'm sorry, Sean.
It's all right, mate. I'm a little we're on YouTube. Yeah, the podcast and the Donna Noble Chronicles will continue. Every episode Donna Noble was in from 2006 to 2010 because she didn't do any more.
So give them the loving. Everybody, give them the love.
Come on, honey. Come on, you babe out there. Come on.
Don't, because my American, the lad Clayton from the Men Who Like Movies podcast, who I do the Doctor Who episodes with, and I did the Flux with as well, so he's a good friend. he said that he's loved the series, which is fair enough.
That's fine.
But but he keeps calling me babes, and I've told him to stop because it hurts.
If you get Rachel to 1,000, she'll Vogue for an entire stream.
Will I? Yes.
Yes, she will.
I will.
Well then, everyone, let's
I'm
all
almost
go then.
there.
Well, we're going to dance now anyway, so give us
right.
1,000 subscribers. Give me 850. I'll be happy with that. Jeremy's going to say goodbye by suddenly manifesting as a deleted, converted person. Cyber leader David Banks. Good night, everybody. Thanks for the thread being alive. Good night. See you on
John
Sunday.
boy.
Next
Bye, Duggan.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Night. I'm a true fan.
She's lying. She's lying to you.
I'm a true fan.
Subscribe, everybody. Come on. I want to.